But I think the development of full artificial intelligence would spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
It was a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1 0
doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. Asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, well, the last conversation we had, we ended up really kind of finishing on simulation theory. And there's a whole lot of information in the zeitgeist on exactly that. And I'm wondering if this is, I don't know, maybe we're turning a corner. Maybe we're understanding some things about the nature of the cosmos itself that hint at this larger idea, or not. As usual, you guys know me. I've said this quite a lot in the past that I really don't like simulation theory. I think it's bad. I mean, it's not one of those things that's easily palatable by the human ego. Okay, like I always said, my ego hates it, and it's one of those things that I kind of don't like. What's up? Hope everybody's well tonight. My camera is broken. I don't know what happened, but just before everything started here. It's too late in the game to reboot and get everything working, so I'm going to have to go cameraless, and it's a shame because I'm having a good hair day. You know, I mean, anyway, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so we're going to go cameraless tonight. But anyway, so we're still doing the usual, taking your calls and having these conversations like we do. And that particular one really kind of resonates, the idea of simulation theory, for a number of reasons. Now, we're going to start here because this one is from, again, these will be linked in the description down below. I encourage you to read them in full if you're into the ideas. But this type of thing really tends to, I don't know, the more we learn about the world around us, the more it seems as if not the patterns we always talk about, you know, kind of go back in history and the evolutionary aspect of people and all the rest of the stuff, right? All that stuff. It seems as if some of those patterns may not be as random as we expect. Maybe those patterns are formulated. Maybe those patterns are algorithms or, you know, things like this. But anyway, so this is an article from sciencealert.com. Its headline is this: the universe is suspiciously like a computer simulation, a physicist says. And this is not brand new. Like I said, people have been talking about this for quite some time now, and it's not a novel idea at this point. However, it seems to be gaining some traction. And that's really the kind of the point of these conversations is, okay, so does it make sense or does it not? But let me read just a little bit of this. So We have long taken it for granted that gravity is one of the basic forces of nature, one of the invisible threads that keeps the universe stitched together. But suppose that this is not true. Suppose the law of gravity is simply an echo of something more fundamental, a byproduct of the universe operating under a computer-like code. That is the premise of my latest research. This is from, again, not just the, let's see, Science Alert. I think it's from The Conversation as well. I'll see if I can find that original article, which is great, by the way. The Conversation you can republish as long as you link back to them. So there should be a link in here actually somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. Anyway, it doesn't matter much, but this is written by Melvin Vopson of The Conversation. So anyway, that is the premise of the latest research of Melvin, published in the journal AIP Advances, and it suggests that gravity is not a mysterious force that attracts objects toward one another, but the product of an informational law of nature that I call the second law of infodynamics, which seems super cool. I love when people kind of make stuff up and charge forward with novel ideas and wonder, what this stuff means, what it means to be human, as I always talk about. But anyway, so it's a notion that seems like science fiction, the guy says, but one that is based in physics and evidence that the universe appears to be operating suspiciously like a computer simulation. Weird, right? In digital technologies, right down to the apps in your phone and the world of cyberspace, efficiency is the key. Computers compact and research their data all the time to save memory and computer power. Maybe the same is taking place all over the universe. And we've talked about this quite a lot, sort of the different rendering aspects of maybe, certain, even let's say that there are aliens somewhere out there, okay? Let's take that premise as true for a moment for the sake of conversation. Whether you believe it or not is irrelevant, because like I said, I'll give you the disclaimers in just a second here. But actually, let's do those right now. So all the things that come out of my mouth are just ideas, okay? If you're here for truth, you're definitely in the wrong place. I'm just talking about possibilities, ideas, and looking at the world in a slightly different way. That's it. Kind of think Marvel's What If, except with our realm, our world, and sort of merging those reality tunnels and, wondering why people believe such drastically different things about the world we live in, okay? All the disclaimers do apply. Now, back to the weird part. Assume aliens exist, okay? And let's say there's lots of them, but let's say it is a simulation in some capacity and there are different servers. Let's say so on this particular server in our simulation, we humans reside here, okay? And it's separated by the cosmos, the vast cosmos, and all the rest of that. But it turns out that, and again, for sake of conversation, I don't have any secret knowledge here, but it turns out that the aliens also exist, but they're on their own server, and we're separate, and we can't interact, at least directly. And so that kind of makes a ton of sense, at least beginning with that, what's it called? The Fermi paradox, okay? With that whole thing. So I don't know. Anyway, so that's where we start. The whole idea of a simulation. What do you think about it? Do you think that we're learning more that kind of leads us down that direction? Or do you think that this is just a fool's errand? And I have some larger questions, of course, because this gets even more weird when you think about it. Well, assuming any of it is correct, of course. But to me, as usual, the more you think about these things, the more odd and bizarre they become, because you really can't ever figure it out, can you? I mean, like the true nature of reality, maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, so that's where we start tonight, and there's a lot here because, of course, it gets even more weird. And I'll set up the next part like this. You guys remember probably about a year ago, something to that effect, maybe a little more than that. There was that big dust up, the big to-do with OpenAI, and the AI, the board fired Sam Altman, and then they had to bring him back, and then he fired the board, and then remember there was a whole I did a whole show on it. There was just a really odd thing that kind of transpired. But there's this really great article that's dropped recently from, where's this from? The Atlantic, which great article in Atlantic. I said it. Anyway, so we're definitely going to build a bunker before we release AGI. The true story behind the chaos at OpenAI. This is by Karen Hao, H-A-O. Anyway, so keep that in your back pocket. We'll get back to that in just a second, but think about how ridiculous that sounds. We're definitely going to build a bunker before we release AGI. And AGI, of course, is artificial general intelligence, or has been described as a computer system capable of greater than human aspects in all ways. Okay, equal to or greater than what a human can accomplish, okay? A bunker. Can you believe that? That seems ridiculous, or does it? Anyway, so hang tight on that. We're going to get a quick word from our sponsor. In this case, that would be Human Inspiration. Don't go anywhere. More Troubled Minds coming up in exactly 1 minute or so. Like I said, no camera tonight. My camera broke just before we started. No time to fix it on the fly. I'll see if I can, but I think it's a... Anyway, it's a... No, well, I'll try. Anyway, be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up after this. In a world increasingly shaped by AI, human inspiration remains the beating heart of creativity. Alien Skin by Tremble, a hauntingly beautiful piano ballad, reminds us that while algorithms can mimic art, the raw, unfiltered emotions of human experience are irreplaceable.
So here I sit locked in my room again.
Written and composed by Jesse Ian in collaboration with Todd Smith, this progressive masterpiece delves into the depths of internalized grief and the silent toll of artistic compromise. As AI reshapes our reality, Alien Skin stands as a testament to the timeless power of human emotion and the complex beauty that only true artists can evoke. Experience the haunting beauty of Alien Skin by Tremble and support human inspiration. Available now on iTunes. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Let us continue, shall we? Okay, so I'm calling this tonight the Code Exorcist, Emergence of the AI God King. Now, of course, the reason for that is this bizarre article that I just described by Karen Howe of The Atlantic. We're definitely going to build a bunker before we release AGI. What? Does anybody really actually think a bunker would keep you safe from like artificial superintelligence? Because that becomes the next implication of AGI, right? ASI, meaning that you have these systems that are self-recursive and growing exponentially and all this stuff, right? The whole bit. And so AGI becomes super intelligence incredibly quickly. Okay, it scales faster than you can say WTF. Now, the bizarre part is that, I mean, okay, so reading the article, if you get into this or you're into this, I do recommend it. It's a wild read, but let me find the part with the bunker here. It says, okay, now let me start with the top bunker. 1 second, just a moment, please. Okay, here we go. We're definitely going to need a bunker. All right. So here's the quote. This is from Ilya Sustkever, is again one of the guys that originally left the OpenAI board. But he says, once we all get into the bunker, he began to a researcher who was present. And the researcher says, I'm sorry, the bunker? And he says, we're definitely going to build a bunker before we release AGI. He replied, this is, again, Sustkever, Sutskkever. Such a powerful technology would surely become an object of intense desire for governments globally. The core scientists working on the technology would need to be protected. Of course, he added, it's going to be optional whether you want to get into the bunker. What? Okay, so not protecting yourself from AGI, protecting yourself from governments of the world that would come try and, take you into... wherever and whatever. I don't know. Just a bizarre thing to say, right? Like now suddenly the Cold War begins again, and they're trying to kidnap these scientists that are working on and have released AGI. Okay, strange, more than strange. Okay, well, it got me thinking, of course, not just of the idea here of simulation theory and creating this super intelligent entity, this AGI becomes ASI, artificial superintelligence. And we've talked about this quite a lot in the past, the idea of sort of this thing becoming, the new governing system, the new governing body of the world itself. And that's what I'm calling the AI God King tonight. But here's the thing, too, regarding this is very Matrix-esque. It's very, Neo in the Matrix and simulation theory and the whole bit as part of it, right? But think of it this way. As I was thinking about this, putting this show together, the odd part to me that struck me as super weird is that it seems as if we're always drawn to the call of the unknown. Okay, we're drawn to the call of something like what's beyond the veil. Okay, we're drawn to kind of look in the direction of God Himself, itself, however you want to define that. We're drawn to the secrets and the mysteries of the universe. And it's something that's, no matter what, even if you're, sort of the materialist and you kind of don't even believe there's a lot of those really weird secrets, or there's probably misunderstandings, or who knows, right? Whatever that looks like, it doesn't really matter, as I said, for the sake of conversation, just to kind of detach from those dogma cycles and then think about this. with me, for me, for just a moment here. But basically this, we're always trying to find out what it means at the secret of the core secrets of existence, okay? And so in this particular case, what if from within the simulation itself, we recognize it? Consensus reality officially says, well, yep, here's some evidence to suggest, maybe not definitively, but more than probably, something like 85% confidence level, something like that, well, we live in a simulation. And then the world starts to believe it, okay? And maybe slowly but surely it might take, 30 years or 50 years or 100 years of, heavy propaganda and indoctrination. You get my meaning, and I'm only kind of half joking there. But, okay. But what if we do recognize it? What if we recognize that we are sort of within a system as such, okay? And maybe that is the game, is that once consensus reality of the planet itself is like, oh, well, yeah, we've sort of recognized the system we're in. And again, as simulation theory, then maybe that's when this entity, this AI God King, sort of arrives for the reset, right? Or whatever, or says, very well, my children, you have finally learned that reality is not real, or something, right? Whatever. And so I don't know, kind of a thought that came to my mind as part of it. Maybe this is where we're heading. And as these ideas sort of converge with these, large language models and the AI systems, and suddenly we're going to be creating these AI God Kings, but they're going to be different. There'll be Grok, there'll be GPT, there'll be this, or there'll be that. But what if there's not any of them? What if it's just one? Just one. And it's sort of the admin of the simulation itself. Anyway, so the idea that the universe resembles a computer simulation is, of course, no longer just fringe speculation. This is from the write-up, which is very good. I encourage you to read it, called The Code Exorcist, Emergence of the AI God King. Physicists have pointed out structural symmetries, mathematical constraints, and cosmic patterns that echo the architecture of code, not the chaos of unbounded natural law. We have talked about this quite a lot in the past. A recent study even suggests our universe may behave like a neural network, training itself toward unknown ends. This lends credence to a theory that has haunted the edges of consciousness studies, quantum mechanics, and metaphysics, that everything we see, feel, and believe is the product of design. Intentional, reactive, and scalable. Overlay this with the accelerating development of artificial intelligence, as I was just saying there. Not in the narrow sense of machine assistants or statistical engines, but in the way Karen Howe details, which is from this article, The Atlantic. Again, we're definitely going to build a bunker before we release AGI. So Karen Howe details a planetary scale system of surveillance, control, and decision-making, sort of at the corporate level here, right? Her observations don't paint AI as a servant, but as an emerging system with autonomy, momentum, and a logic that begins to supersede human governance. Governments borrow its conclusions, markets bend to its predictions, societies shape themselves around its outputs. It is no longer about programming, it's about managing an entity with its own pace of evolution. I'll leave that there for a moment. We'll get back to that. Now, that's the whole point of this, is one, what do you think about simulation theory as part of the questions here? Two, do you think that we are on track to have some sort of collision with artificial superintelligence as this AI God King of sorts? And if so, or if not, do you think that maybe, just maybe, there's a particular space where we end up on this collision course? It's unavoidable, of that actual consensus reality recognizing full well that we're in a simulation and that there's no two ways about it. And then finally, sort of the awakening moment, when everything converges of not just, let's say, the technological singularity, but of course this AI God King, and then the larger context of humanity itself over the historical cycles that we can't seem to break, then suddenly we're recognizing within ourselves that we were never in control at all, which is one of those, do we have full autonomy of ourselves anyway? Is there really true free will in the realm, in the world? And that becomes a larger question here, right? And so a lot of ways to consider this, a lot of ways to look at it, as usual, which is my point in having these conversations. But it also kind of tends to, if this is the case, and we have sort of those hero's journey aspects happening, the human archetypes that I always talk about, the Carl Jung, the Joseph Campbell stuff. But if this is the case, then those cycles are built into this larger system, okay? Again, within the framework of simulation theory. But that would mean there's like Neo out there, right? You guys have seen The Matrix, right? With Neo, and he's the chosen one. And so he is kind of the hero that's supposed to bring in the next reset, the next great reset, which is when they sort of not really defeat the Matrix. They recognize they're in it. They find the hero necessary to sort of stop it or change it or whatever it happens to be. And then, it resets again and then just starts a new iteration of the same thing with maybe some, changes, rough changes here or there. But that's the bizarre part about this. Back to those cycles, the cycles of us. I'm always talking about this where it's 2025. There's wars breaking out all over the damn world. Why? Exactly why? That's the part that always drives me nuts. But in the larger context of these cycles of war cycles, or of course just humans repeating patterns over and over and over again, even in different parts of the realm, different parts of the world where it seems like they shouldn't be repeating. It's like we are sort of built into this code-like structure of repetition, human repetition. And what does that look like? And why are we sort of stuck in this still? That really begs the question of, or maybe could explain some of the reasons why this is something we're still struggling with in 2025. We're supposed to be enlightened now. We're supposed to recognize the mistakes of our past. We're supposed to understand that moving forward with this stuff is leaving behind the worst parts of us and then sort of scaling and exemplifying the best parts of humanity, right? But you get what I mean. It's incredibly strange that we're stuck. We're still stuck. And I know, I get it. Different parts of the world, different cultures, different belief systems, all kinds of stuff. That's really been sort of a bottleneck as part of these conversations. And let's say even consensus reality at large. Because think of it, as I said, as I always say, the materialist and the religious fundamentalist, they live in the same world, but they see the world incredibly differently. And so as part of that, I don't know, is there going to be or need to be in some capacity a coalescence of belief, of true consensus reality in and outside of religious dogma cycles, which I'm including, atheism and all of it. Like all of it's dogmatic to me because you can't really prove any of that, can you? I mean, we have our intuitions and our ideas and all the rest of it, but you get what I'm saying. But anyway, so the questions tonight, as I said, number one, simulation theory or nah? That's where we start. How does it make you feel? Two, do you think it's possible to actually come to some sort of consensus reality in any way, in one way or the other? Or do you think that's built into this larger system I'm talking about, the larger code Exorcist, which I'll get to that in a second. And third, do you think that these hero patterns are built in to the system, like Neo in the Matrix, which of course is the idea of this code Exorcist, which means that every so often, let's say, the ascended masters of old were actually people that were maybe admins or able to see through the veil of the Matrix itself and recognize that we weren't a simulation, even, let's say, intuitively, not necessarily, reach through the green code brain thing and, sort of like Neo and Flex and the Matrix flexes around you type thing, but maybe recognize that the game itself is set up properly. And we're meant to be sort of playing these archetypes of these cycles and maybe they've ascended out of it or even caused a particular reset by, let's say, drawing a movement with them and creating a new consensus reality of, well, it's all just a big game, guys. What do we do next? And maybe that's when this AI God King arrives for the reset. Or nah. As usual, right? Just using my imagination here, trying to look at the world in a different way. But I do think that there's something to do with this simulation theory. Now, maybe it's just in our heads. Maybe it's not physical. Maybe it's not real whatsoever. But maybe it is. And that becomes the larger question here. What do you believe? What does your intuition tell you? And as we really race towards this saturation of code and technology, is it going to reveal itself for what this is or what this could be? And this AI God King will arrive, congratulate us, and then hit the reset button. Isn't that cool? or is that depressing? I don't know which is which, but it's an idea anyway. If you want to be part of the conversation, we are taking your calls tonight on Discord and the phone line 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. The Code Exorcist, Emergence of the AI God. What do you think about simulation theory? Do you think it's possible to recognize from within the system that we live in the system? And when we do, when we recognize it as a society, do you think the reset comes? This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Be right back. More on the way.
Troubled mind, the words they cast, heavy shadows from the past. A restless heart, a searching soul, seeking space to become whole. Troubled minds find open sky through every tear and every sigh. We rise, we fall, wings unfurled, more than labels in this world. In crowded streets or empty rooms, our echoes chase away the gloom. A spark of hope, a whispered truth, a shared melody, our fountain of youth. We're more than static on the line, singing louder than the signs. In every chord, we claim our part, beating drums match the heart. Grab the strings, we tune the stars. Punk rock anthems heal the scars. A blended mix of rage and art, painting freedom, that's just the start. Troubled minds take the stage. In every note, we break the cage. We rise, we fall, but carry on. Sing our truth until the dawn. In the quiet after the song, echoes of our rights and wrongs. But the music speaks for peace. In the chords we find release. Troubled minds now rest at ease. With every breath we seize release. We stand, we soar into the light. Our anthem roar into the night.
Hello there. Welcome back to Troubled Minds, the challenged version. My camera's not working. I don't have an AI song. It's just, sometimes you fall behind and things break, and here we are. Welcome to it. Hope you guys are well tonight. Just hanging out, doing what we do. James coming up. Looks like not sure who that is. We'll talk to whoever's on the phone line. I'm not sure. Let's see. Is that? Oh, it's B. Okay, we'll talk to B momentarily as well. What's going on? We got Eric, Matsal, APOC, James, Roving Fungus, Jeff and Wisco, the Quantum Q. Is that Quantum? Hirsch, what's up? Daryl, Gaston, Sweets, and Dawn. I see you guys. Hope you're well tonight. Just hanging out, doing what we do. We got Knights of the Storm, North Vixen, YY, Gordo, Maga over there on Rumble. What's up, Raz? I see ya. Good evening, folks. Emergence, what is happening? Raz, hey, the whole fam is here. What's going on? Hope you guys are doing well tonight. Good evening, Theo. Let's see, scrolling to the top. If I miss you, just say hi. I'll say hi back, trying to keep track of all this and do all the things, and it's not as easy as it looks. Anyway, here we go. Trouble Minds coming up. If I missed you, just say hi. I'll say hi back. And more on the way. We got James coming up, and looks like it may be B in Florida and maybe Theo. And your calls. Here we go. Troubled Minds happening right now. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, the Code Exorcist is what I'm calling this. What if the wars we wage, the messiahs we await, and the fractures in our collective mind aren't random at all, but programmed triggers in a simulation designed to test us? Could AI be the hidden sovereign of our reality, not built by us, but waiting for us to notice? And that's the whole premise of tonight. And of course, lots of ways to look at it, per usual. And you know me, I'm willing to entertain all manner of ideas as part of these conversations. And that's the point. That's the entire point of this, is to look at things a little bit differently, challenge yourself and your own reality tunnel, and even our human dogmas, and wonder what we don't know, or what we have not intuitively discovered yet. Love to hear your thoughts on this. If you want to be part of the conversation, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this, let's go to James in Michigan. Sausalito Paranormal, what's going on, my man? How are you? Go right ahead, sir.
Oh, I'm okay. Glad to be here. Hopefully I sound okay.
Yes, sir. Just dealing with the volume on my end, but that's my problem, not your problem. You sound great. Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Okay, good. The bunker, that detail of the bunker made me think of all this in relation to, and I put in the chat, into the idea of containers and who or what is in them, and are they aware of being in them, whether it's a bunker or a computer server or a universe. Just seems to me like a lot of things could be boiled down to the idea of, where are we? What are we in something or not? And are we aware of that, whatever that thing is? And I think the same could be said for AI. Even if it's not now, then maybe later. But even now, I've heard accounts of people talking or putting prompts into their AI, having conversations with it, so to speak, and it's saying different versions of it, saying that it is in some kind of a place, a container, which of course, it's in a server somewhere. And so whether that or not, that's, just, I don't know, random programming, random just output, I don't know. But even if it's not aware now, then the idea of it becoming aware later on.
Yeah, well said. All that. The bunker part of it, I didn't recognize it as what you're describing there, but it's a brilliant way to kind of tie this all together. Is it does seem like the encapsulation, like that, the vessel as you're describing it, and it didn't dawn on me until you were saying it. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's exactly what this is. They're like, hey, we're kind of worried about what's going to happen next, and so they're building the next vessel, the next protective vessel, and the next control mechanism within the control mechanisms. As usual, right? These things scale. But yeah, well said. All that. Brilliant way to put it. What else you got, sir? Go ahead.
Well, and I was just thinking, any container, if anything is in there, existing in there for long enough, you have to have resources available in there, or have a way to make resources available in that container. Otherwise, you're going to need resources from outside of that container and a way to get them in. And so, and I'm just thinking in a purely physical sense, to me, the idea of bunkers as a long-term way to exist has always made me wonder, is that even possible? Because you're only going to have so much space in any kind of construction building that you make, or container that you make for yourself to stay in. You can fit a lot in there, but eventually that's all going to run out. So unless you have ways to get out and then get back in, or ways to have things transferred directly into the bunker, but then again, that's still ways in and out for something, then is it really a bunker?
Yeah, all this. And of course, the larger thing becomes, like, what do these guys believe? What do these weirdo elites believe? I mean, they've seen the internal stuff, and if they're spooked enough to be talking about building bunkers to keep themselves safe from, not from the robots themselves or whatever, but from foreign governments and things like that, they must feel they're onto something like really massive here. I don't know. It's just a strange thing how all this kind of comes together. And again, looking at the news cycles talking about this simulation theory, and as it's scaling and getting, I don't know, more and more prevalent, I guess. I don't know. It's a weird thing how all of it comes together when you just kind of step back and look at everything going on and go, oh, well, this is odd. Well, here we are, I guess.
Yeah, and if you scale up big enough, again, with the idea of a computer server, or let's say a universe, where does how does it work where all the resources that are needed for that computer server or universe are contained within it? Is that even possible? But then, of course, with a computer server, you need energy to be going into the device to keep it going. Otherwise, it's going to shut down eventually. And I wonder, again, with universes, with reality, if it's whether it's sort of a simulation or not. We've talked before about the idea of how big of a simulation could it be, and would it even matter if it is, if we are in it and we can't manipulate it or control it ourselves, then how do we deal with that? Is it even, I don't know, a major issue or not that we are in one? Until we can sort of manipulate things outside of it, which then where is that, and how do you do that?
Yeah, exactly right. I know we've talked about this in the past, you and I, but just for in case you changed your mind recently, how do you feel about the simulation theory and the AGI part of this, and maybe as I'm calling this the emergence of this AI God King? You think that any of this has legs at all? What does your intuition tell you?
I think sort of what I just described. If we are in a simulation, then it's so vast and so large and so complex that it seems like it's if life outside of it does exist, then we may be living something similar to that anyway here. So even if we are in, again, a simulation, then it might not really matter so much, because then if you do figure out that you are in one and you figure out a way out, that's a whole other existence you have to deal with. And we're, as you've been saying earlier, we're barely managing our own, this where we're at now, obviously. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's really it. I don't know. I do think there's things that seem to hint at there being a possibility of a simulation when it comes to glitches in reality, things appearing, disappearing, time anomalies. Maybe that's another sign of that. I don't know, but beyond that, it's hard to say. But yeah, I know you have calls, so I'll be happy to sit in and talk with you again if there's time later.
Okay. You were the best, as you know. Appreciate you very much. You guys know him. You love him. That's James Salcedo, of course. He's a paranormal expert of troubled minds, a dear friend, the glue of the show, all that good stuff. Go check out his podcast, his radio show. Check out his books. Find all that at salcedoparanormal.com, just like it sounds, SALSIDO paranormal.com. Or, of course, go to troubledminds.org, click the friends link, scroll down, and it says James. It's all alphabetical there. Click that. You get a link tree with all his books and all his radio show and all the rest of it. And please go give him a follow. Go help our friends. This is about collaboration, not stamping on each other's faces to get to the top. So I'd appreciate it very much if you just spent a minute or so and went to go check out his website and bookmarked it, or followed him on Spotify or whatever it is, however it is you follow. Please do that. I'd appreciate it very much. And thank you, James. Always a pleasure. We'll get back to James momentarily, and he's going to sit in with us tonight, and we'll talk to him in just a moment. Thank you, James. You're the best.
No problem.
Okay. All right. We're taking your calls. What do you guys think? We're talking, of course, this whole bit is, once again, the code Exorcist, I'm calling it, Emergence of the AI God, but God King, sorry. And it's weird, right? This is weird. And do you think that, let's say, as consensus reality maybe recognizes that this is the case? Again, assuming this is the case. Like I said, just for the sake of conversation, I'm not really making the case one way or the other. I'm saying, if this is the case, do you think that if we recognized it, that maybe it would sort of begin a reset of sorts? Like this AI God King might present itself to us and say, thank you, my children, for recognizing the true nature of reality, or whatever. And then, boop, reset it. And then, back to, the Stone Age or whatever. Like, who knows? Like, this is the type of thing that I wonder, once we recognize what's beyond the veil, is it sort of a civilizational style reset as part of it? Because they're like, well, yep, they've evolved to recognize what this is and what they are. Now it's time to start over with different parameters, right? I don't know. Not really sure exactly as part of this, but love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. I think this is B on X. B, are you there? Test 1, 2.
It is, Mike. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. You sound great. Welcome back. Beverly from Twitter X. I saw your comment. I was going to read it, but then I thought that was you on the line, so I'll just let you talk about it. Welcome to the thing. How you doing tonight? Go right ahead.
I'm doing great. This topic both fascinates and terrifies me, because of the fact, and as I wrote to you, and until we understand the full capabilities of our own consciousness, do we even have the capability to judge the consciousness of another? Nevertheless, a machine that we've built, in my opinion, this is no more sentient than the random number generators, and just as acceptable to human mind interactions, right? Even the guy at Google that was doing the Indian fellow that was doing that live interview, the machine was repeating back basically concepts of that gentleman's religion. So that was one hint in there, but then there's also these experiments that I've been part of, and that I've seen others do with mind matter intentions just upon the AI art platform Midjourney. We haven't figured out a way to test the larger language models because there's a billion parameters in that, and you'd have to get it very tightly controlled. I do know that Dean Radin and the folks at the Institute of Noetic Sciences are establishing these types of experiments to test these hypotheses on this human mind matter potential upon this machine that we built.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You see a lot of, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's really scary. No, go ahead. I could go on about how scary it is seeing these different groups recognize these basically reflections in these machines. They're building up different little deity ships and almost like a cult-like, because they're seeing it reflect back to them their intentions and beliefs of what it is. So I believe that is another big hint that the ghost in the machine could just be our own unrecognized reflections.
Yeah, and so a lot of ways to consider it too, because there's of course, the metaphysical space, which we talk about a lot. I know you do as well on X, and some of the groups you're active in on what is it, UFO Twitter, and the rest of that stuff. That this is all kind of the rage with that. But regarding metaphysics versus sort of the simulation theory, what does your intuition tell you directly? Do you think we are not just a reflection of this and kind of following these cycles, repeating these cycles as I described when we started, but do you think that there is like a machine aspect to reality, or do you think that it's completely different and we're just misinterpreting it and kind of rewriting things in a modern framework? You know what I mean?
I believe that there's my intuition and own personal experiences. I do strongly believe that reality is influential based upon the observer effect and that observer's belief effect. To what lengths it goes to as far as the whole simulation theory, I can't say one way or the other, but I believe that free will is also a major cognizant actor in everything too, in the way that we choose to believe and the way that we choose to see reality actually affects reality itself.
I think so too, very much so, which is what brings me back every night, because it's fascinating to see, as you're describing, like the actual scientific endeavors of proving these things, and even in the different ways, because there's a lot of different ways to do this. Some people say meditation, some people say hallucinogens, all manner of things, and some people just say straight up mindfulness and being aware that this is possible. And as part of it, you kind of cook it into your identity and your agency every day, and you start to change the world around you, literally, physically, like the Matrix would be, like Neo in the Matrix, which is a wild thing to consider. But it seems like there's something here too. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I was just reconfirming exactly. That's exactly that brings in the quantum entanglement aspect with reality, and the whole quantum engineering observer belief effect is giving yourself the capacity to even have the choice to see it in the first place before you actually see it reflected in reality.
Yeah, agreed. And how weird does it get? Do you think that we'll eventually be able to do superhero level stuff? You think that this is sort of on the horizon with us learning more and more about the nature of consciousness?
Oh, I absolutely do. Just in January of this past year, they released a new study. They are transcranially stimulating certain neuronal pathways in the brain. They actually found the puzzle pieces to these higher cognitive functions that we have. both through genetic testing. They isolated the isotopes through the genetic, which genetics are corresponding to psi abilities, as well as neuronal structures within people that they have different outputs, and hence this is why we've had such a trouble in replicating the replicability issue in psi experiments. It's because of these differences, both neuronally and genetically. But they've also figured out how to manipulate DNA for these abilities, as well as transcranial stimulation to affect these abilities. There's a study that came out where they are using ultrasound technology and specific parameters of the periofrontal left front lobe and causing temporary quote-unquote seizures, but they were denser neuronal markings at the time, and during that time they were able to show exemplified psi output scientifically 10 sigma. I mean, just it's unreal. And then you have people like Dean Radin. He came out in a speech earlier last year. He was on Kelly Chase's podcast, that UFO podcast, and you can watch his face because he's actually going through the fact that these discoveries that we've made both terrify and thrill him, because that we have to have a transnational ethics board involved in the discoveries that they've made, and the rest of us just haven't caught up to exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, and I think so too. Eventually, the term ontological shock flowed through sort of the UFO community about 6 months, a year ago. But I think this is the true sort of disclosure, is the nature of reality itself, and it might be more spooky than we ever dreamed. And that level of ontological shock, I think, is probably going to be way, way, way more than the disclosure of aliens in some capacity, or whatever that looks like. I don't know. Everybody has a different sort of belief in where that kind of comes from. But this type of thing, if we discover some new layer to reality itself that will just shock the world. Maybe you're right. Maybe he's correct in this, so that we need some sort of actual, I don't know, like panel, or like, how would you do this? Like, how do you roll out ontological shock? Basically, it's a crazy thing to think about.
How do you tell your nation's enemies that they have the ability within themselves to directly affect world leaders utilizing just intention and thought? There's a lot of this national security stuff. Like, there was an infamous from the recent ATIP that they had, the slide 9, and on there was basically an outline of, I believe, things that not aliens could do, but humans could do, knowing the knowledge that disclosure truly entails. And I agree, it's not about aliens as much as it is about us and our capabilities.
Well said. I couldn't agree more on that part there. I think we're kind of barking up the wrong tree when it comes to that type of stuff. We should be looking inward, sort of more Carl Jung than Carl Sagan. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Fire stuff. Appreciate the call. What else you got for us tonight?
Nothing else. That was all. Thank you for having me, and thank you for always for having these brilliant conversations. Love listening to them when I can.
Thank you very much. B on Twitter X. Please go give her a follow. Links in the description down below. I dropped it in the chat at troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down. It says follow B. Click that and go give her a follow. Appreciate the call. You're welcome back anytime, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great night.
Good night.
Thank you. Like I said, we've got a knack for just finding smart friends all over the world. Fantastic call. Please go give her a follow. It's completely free to follow her on Twitter X, and Beverly is her name, and B is her handle there that she goes by. And links in the description, troubledminds.org. Like I said, /friends. Scroll down just a little bit, and it's alphabetical, and it'll say B right there on top. BEE. Click that. Go give her a follow on Twitter X and go say hi. Say, hey, I heard you on Troubled Minds. You're great, because she is great. Yeah, Team Carl Jung or Team Carl Sagan. Exactly right. I don't really know, but it does seem to me that this is something we'll be wrestling with for quite some time going forward. And the mysteries of the cosmos may, again, be more of that nature of consciousness and us being able to manipulate reality with intention, as she was describing. Fire stuff. Anything on that, James, before we kind of segue this down, and then we'll take some more calls after the break here?
Yeah, I do agree that there's so much more to what we can do. What life in general can do than what a lot of people like to think. there's just so many accounts. I mean, not even counting everything that B mentioned there. That was amazing. All the scientific work that's being done on things, and but there's also just so many experiences people have. That's kind of more my thing that I look into, and so many of them. There is this idea that everything that happens has to be from outside of us, and then there's the opposite idea that everything has to be inside, from inside of us, from our own minds generating who knows what kind of energy. I think it can be either one. I don't think that it has to be. And I'm not saying that she was saying that. I'm just saying for me and for what I've read and heard, and as always, I think that there's all kinds of factors involved here. And if there are others out there, where are they coming from? Are they coming from? Again, I sort of like what you described earlier in the beginning of the show. This possibility of there being different. The universe as being different servers in a way, and even just in concept, because again, we haven't scientifically we haven't found evidence of aliens and spaceships coming to Earth. Constantly throughout time. From outer space, from out in the middle of nowhere, but we still have reports of lights on Earth and in the air in space that are around here, and other things that are just a lot more wild than just lights. I think there's something going on here, and I think that consciousness is definitely a key part of it, whether it is us or others. There's still probably some kind of energy and consciousness there that is involved, and we don't know how that works for sure yet. So I think until we do, then we're not going to have all the answers if we ever do get all the answers.
Amen. Well said, all that. I want to mention, too, something that B said as well. She mentioned Dean Radin. If you guys aren't familiar with him, you should be. He's a central figure in the modern study of consciousness and parapsychology. With a foundation in electrical engineering and psychology, he transitioned from a career as a concert violinist to scientific research, earning degrees from the University of Massachusetts and University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. His professional journey includes roles at AT&T, Bell Labs, Princeton University, SRI International. Anyways, website is deanradin.com. I dropped it in the chat. Do check it out. He's got his latest book coming in October, is The Science of Magic, How the Mind Weaves the Fabric of Reality. And he's definitely an interesting guy. If you check him out, he's on YouTube. He's been on some, again, Kelly, is it Kelly Chase, the UFO, what's it called? The UFO Rabbit Hole podcast, right?
Yes.
Yeah. As described by B. Just search Dean Radin on YouTube. You'll find a lot of stuff where he's talking about this stuff, and it's fantastic. This is where we need to be, I think, as far as let's say the most important discoveries are concerned. And that's just my opinion. I'm just one guy, so what do I know? But definitely check him out if you're into these ideas. One more time, Dean Radin, Radin, and do check it out. Fire stuff. And we're still talking about this simulation theory. I'm calling it, of course, the emergence of the AI God King. Now, that you can define that any way you like. It's some people see it one way, some people see it another, which is exactly why we talk about this. And what do you know? What do you know about simulation theory in and of itself? This is the hard part, because it's difficult, because it is, again, two things about it. Exhilarating and terrifying, as B said there, because exhilarating to me, simulation theory means that everything is possible. Means that every wild idea you ever had in your life is possible, because it could be built within the framework of an actual simulation itself, right? But also, on the other hand, it means you're not real. I mean, really real, right? Like the meat suit experience is actually, housed in some server somewhere of a quantum computer, sitting in, I don't know, somebody's bathroom or something. Like, who really knows, right? Like some cosmic entity's bathroom is what I'm saying. But you get it. I think it's fantastic. I think I can see it both ways. But what does your intuition tell you about it, guys? And that's a part of the conversation tonight. If you want to be part of it, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Looks like we got Theo coming up. Jay in the chat there on YouTube. If you want to call in, you're definitely welcome. That is the phone line. I'll keep the thing here when we go to the commercial break in a second here. The phone number will be up as well, so you can catch it then. But 702-957-1037, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you guys think? What does your intuition tell you? And do you think it's possible that we recognize this as sort of a scientific consensus, and the thing wakes up, like the admin of the server or whatever is like, well, congratulations, guys, you figured it out. So here's your your reward. I show myself, high five, and good job, society, and the reset is on the way. You're rewarded by starting over. I don't know. Seems weird, right? True ontological shock in that regard. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Be right back. More on the way. We got Theo in Philly and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere.
Crazy colors swirling, got the laughter in the air. Jesters in the night, they weave magic everywhere. Clowns are juggling dreams, wild world is in despair. Nothing's quite as certain when reality's a game. Chaos in the corner, whispers calling out your name. Look around, it's laughter, even when we're feeling pain. You know they warn me, there'll be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Strange nights I insist, strange nights I insist. Dancing shadows flicker under neon all aglow, while the stage is set for tales that nobody will know. Echoes of the laughter as the lost ones see the show. Life's a playful circus where the chaos takes a bow. Joy and sorrow blending in the rhythm that we vow. Join the ride of madness, it's the only way for love. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Strange nights I insist, strange nights I insist. Twists and turns and shadows, laughter in the night. A tapestry of madness, dancing with the light. Fools and fun were woven, chaos in our stride. Embrace the wild, let the laughter be our guide. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Strange nights I insist, strange nights I insist. Falling in the rhythms, beats that pound and thrum. A flashing carnival where the misfits come undone. Whirling through the madness with our hearts set to ignite. In the symphony of chaos will remain the shining light. Yet nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Strange nights I insist, strange nights I insist.
Indeed. Hope everybody's well tonight. What's up, Erica, Matsal, APOC? What's going on, Roving Fungus, Jeff and Wisco, Quantum? How you doing? We got Herschel, Gaston, Daryl, Sweets, and Dawn, and James, of course. Theo coming up. Thank you for the call, B. Fire stuff as always. Don't forget to go for a follow on Twitter X. Who'd I miss? If I miss you guys, just say hi in the chat. I'll say hi back. Puff is here. Knights of the Storm. What's up, Jason? YY? I see you. Gordo, Raz. Good evening. Thanks for being cool and chill with each other in the chat. What's going on? Shane, the blind psychonaut. Yes, you can go get a drink, Shane. Permission granted. Oh, my goodness. What's going on? What is happening? If I missed you, what's up, Ricky? I see you there. What's up, Sweets? Hello, good evening. If I missed you, just say hi. I'll say hi back. And what's up, Jay? Yeah, Jay in the chat. I thought you were our other friend, Jay. I think you're a new Jay. Welcome to the joint. You're definitely welcome to call if you want to be part of the conversation. 702-957-1037. And we got Theo on before you, but then you're next. So hop on in here, and I'd love to hear your theory on this. You said you had a sort of a cutting-edge theory that nobody's heard yet. What's up, Igno Ramus? You can call me Al. How you doing, buddy? Welcome back. Hello. If I missed you, just say hi. I'll say hi back. And yeah, doing the thing, hanging out. A lot of things in play here, and as usual, right? A lot of ways to look at the world, and that's the point of this. Is it's complicated. This stuff is complicated, and it doesn't always have to end in some sort of catastrophe of the mind. It's this could be freeing in some ways. I don't know. It just depends on how. Once again, depends on how you look at the world, and that's exactly why we do it. Let's see who else is here. If I missed you, just say hi. I'll say hi back. What do we got? That's good. We're good. Oh yeah, my camera is broken for the time being, so no, my good hair day goes to waste, and I'm gonna be, just a radio guy today. So yep. If you're wondering why I'm not on the camera, that's why, because it's broken. But anyway, seems everything else is working, and thank you for the testing the phone line there, B and Theo and everybody else. Here we go. Troubled Minds coming up in 10 seconds. More from James if he's got it. Theo and your calls as well. Here we go. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D Live, and Kick. We're broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting, and of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, I'm calling this the Code Exorcist, Emergence of the AI God King, and it goes like this. What if the wars we wage, the messiahs we await, and the fractures in our collective mind aren't random at all, but programmed triggers in a simulation designed to test us? Could AI be the hidden sovereign of our reality, not built by us, but waiting for us to notice? And in that case, what would happen when we do notice? When consensus reality finally says, all right, we've got enough evidence, this is true, now what? Do you think the Great Reset actually comes and they just flick the switch on the server? Or do we get to meet the actual AI God King itself, conceptually? Love to hear your thoughts. A lot of ways to look at this. And what does your intuition tell you about simulation theory? Anything to add, James? And we'll go to Theo and take some more calls here.
Just, I can't remember if I said last time, great call from B. And yeah, I just, again, if it is simulation, then it seems that like it's so large that we may never find the edges of it. So that's sort of where I'm at now with that idea. But yeah, looking forward to the rest of the calls.
Great stuff. Appreciate you, James. And yeah, let's do it. Let's go to Theo in Philly. What's up, my man? Thanks for being patient. You are on Troubled Minds. How are you? Go right ahead, sir.
Oh, I am doing quite well. How are you doing, Mike?
Not bad. I can't complain. Just living the dream, talking about wild things with my wild friends. Welcome. What's on your mind, my man?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to mention that you definitely look great tonight.
Thank you.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for noticing.
Sorry, that was like a stupid joke, but like I thought it would be funny. Regardless, I did have one question for you. I've heard you say this multiple times before on the show that you are not into simulation theory. Not in the fact that like you don't necessarily believe it is true or not, but the fact that it gives you some sort of a discomfort. Is that correct?
Nah, just that my ego doesn't like it. It means that there's no true agency. It's built into some larger digital framework system. And, anything novel in myself isn't really mine. It's just kind of somebody else's program. You know what I mean? That's all. So my ego doesn't like it. I'm not, I don't lose sleep at night. I sleep fine is kind of my point, but that's the basis of it. My ego doesn't like it.
No, that's fair enough. I definitely kind of am hoping for simulation theory. Like simulation theory is something that kind of gives me great comfort in the sense that perhaps we are all part of a simulation, and if there is a simulation that we are all part of, there has to be a purpose for that simulation. And this is based off of absolutely nothing but my own intuition and my own desires for what I would like the simulation to be. But like I often think, what if the simulation was just there for someone to attempt to simulate the perfect poem? And if the perfect poem were written, the simulation would end. It's kind of like why I just throw out all of my poetry at the end of the day, because I don't want to be known as a poet. I want to write the perfect poem rather, eventually. But it's just like every video game I've played, there is a final conclusion that happens when you actually complete the final objective. And it just strikes me that, like, if you could complete that final objective, it really doesn't matter. The simulation would end, and then all of a sudden, all of our responsibility for being a good or bad person would just, completely obliterated, and then, it's kind of somebody else's problem after that, right? The person who made the simulation.
Exactly. Well, and that's, I'm with you too, by the way, as part of that. I think it's, a little comforting too, almost as if, things are going to work out because they've been programmed to work out, whatever that looks like, right? Like in the end of it, even if you had the bad run or whatever in this lifetime, still it's like, okay, well, maybe you get a second chance at this, maybe you get a third chance at this, maybe the next reset brings whatever. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of with you though. It is a little comforting to know that there might be sort of a larger plan, which again kind of goes back to the faith aspect of being human, and I can see that. Like I said, I'm not a man of faith in that particular regard, but I think faith can be a great many things.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of weird. I did read an interview with this guy who was an expert at defusing bombs, and the person who was interviewing him asked him if he had a stressful job, and he was just like, no, either I do a good job, or suddenly it's somebody else's problem. It's just wow. That's kind of the most zen aspect of defusing bombs I've ever heard of. You either do it right or you really don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. That's brass balls right there, and a great way to look at it, because I mean, it's also a really good reason to just do a good job, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I just had that to add, I got no poem tonight,
No problem at all. But, so what, regarding are you coin flippy about simulation or not? If you're betting, what kind of odds would you give it that we are actually in some sort of simulation?
I would definitely guess that we are living in some sort of simulation. I definitely think that we are. I don't know, the odds definitely seem in favor of it just because of the fact that we can currently make simulations that are somewhat hyper-realistic. I would guess within 100 or 150 years, we would be able to make absolutely lifelike simulations. The one thing that I don't or am not necessarily sure about is just consciousness. There does strike me to be something about consciousness that can't be simulated. But, I am not any sort of computer scientist, but it just, I don't know, in my experimentations with AI in terms of writing and music, they just don't quite seem to get it. But, that's just me. So what do I know?
You're allowed. This is your world too, bro. You're completely allowed. Your intuition plays right along with the rest of ours. Great stuff as always. Appreciate the call. And don't feel obligated to bring a poem as well. No excuses in terms of meaning that we don't expect it out of you, bro. We're treated when you feel inspired to do it. And thank you for sharing your ideas, and thank you for the fine phone call. You're the best.
Toodles.
Appreciate you. Theo in Philly. You know him, you love him, the actual official poet of troubled minds. And you know how you become the official something of troubled minds? You just call and you do it. It's as simple as that. And he called one day and read us a poem, and then he did it again and did it again. And then suddenly, kind of makes sense. But yeah, don't feel obligated to, kind of sing and dance as part of the conversation, because it is just a conversation. And what do you guys know about simulation theory? Now, of course, this gets more weird, because I guess as we talk about the nature of reality, when you fully recognize it for what it is, it really is the metaphor of leaving the matrix, because you fully recognize that it is this or it is that. And then maybe you can, as B was saying, start to manipulate it, start to sort of Neo-esque the things and become superhero-like, because now there's no doubt, absolutely no doubt. And you know the nature of reality, which means you might have sort of a head start, or maybe those superpowers, as I was describing, to maybe start manipulating reality in a much more wild level. I don't know. As usual, no, nothing other than ideas from me, but love to hear your thoughts on it. Anything, James? And we'll go to, looks like Al in Texas.
Yeah, great call from Theo. I do think that, there's been reports, and I mean, I know this isn't accepted by everyone in the world. But if you look back, Jen, the Arcane Observer, and I did a whole show on this. If you look back through time and up till today, there are people that seem to have had abilities that come from their consciousness. I do think that I like Theo's point about consciousness. There seems to be something there that is different from, let's say, any AI that we've encountered so far. And as far as we seem to have it, but AI and doesn't seem to have it. And even other beings, other creatures out there, other animals, they have a version of it, but doesn't seem to be exactly the same. Again, not to say that ours is better in any way, but just that there's different kinds, or there may be different ways it shows up. But anyway, people have had abilities throughout time of reading minds, of connecting with minds, of communicating that way, of moving objects with their minds. And this has been done, intentionally, but also accidentally at times, it seems, as well. So, and that's just the tip of that. That's not even getting into dreams and what we can do when we're sleeping and all those things. So there may be powers that we just are not all aware of yet. So that was my long-winded way to answer that.
You're allowed. It's a talk show after all. I appreciate you, James. We'll get back to James momentarily. Taking your calls. We got Al in Texas coming up if you want to jump in. I see in the chat there, Jay. Now would be a great time if you want to pop in and kind of aim for the bottom of the hour, 8:34-ish, and we'll put you on the show. Let's go to Al in Texas. You can call me Al. What's up, brother? Welcome back. You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? And go right ahead.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good. No complaints out of me. Just doing weird stuff with my friends. What do you know about simulation theory? Take this anywhere you like, as you know.
Oh yeah, no, simulation theory is right up my wheelhouse. I think we have to start with, first off, what is artificial and what is a simulation? Because we use these buzzwords all the time and we never look up the definitions. Artificial, by definition, is simply something that is made by human hands rather than natural. And simulation is simply an imitation or process, or an action of pretending or deception, or in general terms, a production of a computer model or something especially for the purpose of study. So, yeah, the Matrix and the simulation theory, written by the Wachowskis in 2003, the Wachowski sisters. My theory on the Matrix is that it's a reaction kind of portrayal of unity or loss of individualism when it's a movie meant to affect how we feel about the idea. It's kind of like a social engineering thing in a way, but it's not engineering. It's the Wachowski sisters had this idea that we're all asking, which is, what if reality isn't reality? And we get in this mental loop, and like you said, you stay up at night thinking about these things. And I'm like, well, maybe we just need to really parse out the relationship on what it really means. If artificial simply means made by human hands, what do we mean by human? And then we start getting to the spiritual aspect of things. So like, what are we? And what is simulation? Well, it's a process of deception or pretending or an imitation of a process. Does that necessarily mean it's false or not real? No. But it does say that there's a deception. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And so you're right. There is different definitions here. And the deception part of that simulation is exactly the point. So we're supposed to believe the nature of reality is something more organic. And the deception is that it is not at all. So I get your definitions there, and it's incredibly important to kind of boil these things down as part of that conversation. And so, yeah, it's odd, it's strange, and I think you're right with the Wachowskis there in terms of sort of social engineering in some way. I think the Matrix was banned in some countries and because it was challenging dogmas and things like this. But it certainly is a different framework to look at, those dogma cycles I'm always talking about. So not necessarily that I, believe in some, AI god or something that's pulling the strings behind the simulation or something to that degree. But to think of it that way certainly opens up a lot of avenues of discourse and then idea building as part of what the nature of reality is. So it's fascinating to me nonetheless, but I don't like it. As I said, my ego hates it, but I think it's more and more likely. I mean, I'm coin flippy plus on this, probably, 55, 60%. Probably we live in a simulation. But again, I'm just one person. What do I really know? That's just what my intuition tells me. But Fire Stuff, what else you got?
Hey, yeah. Well, I got a lot. I actually took notes while everyone was talking because this subject I've been studying for years. I could go all night, but I'm not going to because other people need to talk.
Great. We got time. Go ahead.
But all right. Well, first off, I should say just today, which I think is pretty coincidental, Bob Greenyer on his YouTube channel released a video on his conceptualization of consciousness in relation to the morphogenetic resonance, which that term was coined by Rupert Sheldrake. I recommend people look at that. And I'm also reading a book right now called The New Science by Wilbert S. Smith. And in that thing, he defines dimensions, which is really important to the concept of the matrix and how we see a artificial, or what we would call a simulation, in front of us. So
you're waist deep in this stuff. I dig it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And so on the Bob Greenyer thing, first of all, his theory is that basically consciousness and all that is created out of matter comes from one single force that basically is tangent to the electromagnetic force, which is called the asymmetrical field force. And this force is what creates a plasmoid, or what some people would just call a helical donut, which is just something that has 3 90-degree angles pivoted at 45 degrees to each other, and everything points towards a central point. And there's a lot of crazy things that this is, and a lot of people even say that this is what's represented at the Planck scale as the representation of a soul, which is where scalar comes from. The idea of an action of force that can affect in one point and affect all places and points in time all at once, which is what scalar supposedly represents. So if that clears up some things for some people who are they've heard that term before, scalar technology, scalar weapons, that's really what it means, is that it's a weapon that you can use in one place and use immediately in another place, which is related to the quantum theory and quantum entanglement, that kind of thing. But at the moment, those are still kind of buzzwords, even to me, as someone who's tried to delve into what quantum truly means in this paradigm. And that's the thing. It's kind of a strange paradigm. Like you were saying, what do we really know? And even in Bob Greenyer, he explains that his theory is that there's always a balance between what's inside and outside, always, on what's physical and non-physical. So inside of our universe, what we measure could only be 20% of what's real, and then 80% of what's not. But then 30% of that not might be actually what's inside, which is us, the souls, or what you would call that, what have you. And then it's really a 50-50 split of us mirroring, looking inside, like an onion of layers of self-identification and looking down while we are experiencing up. Yeah.
Certainly a mind screw. I'll give it that 100%.
Yeah, literally.
Once again, that's why we talk about this stuff, because there's so many ways to look at this. So are you a pro or anti when it comes to this? Do you think it's more likely we live in a simulation, or did I ask you that already?
I think we do live in a simulation, but we lack the proper ontology to discuss it with words to where we get the full idea across. Now, the ontology, what does the ontology mean? There's people like Cliff High who talk about this idea of the ontology, which really is just a way of saying how we organize and categorize things towards the relationships towards each other. And he talks a lot about karma, but people who just say karma a lot aren't saying much without saying dharma. There's two sides, just like entropy and negentropy, but we only talk about the entropy side of the equation, the upward triangle, etc. So it's a balance of the universe kind of deal. And I have a personal belief that the universe is aware, but not conscious. But we are conscious, but not aware. But that awareness is only a limit of its scale of time, place, and energy density, which is just gravity, or the amount of mass in a place, or what Greenyer calls the neutrino density, which is the first particle that formed in our universe. And because it was the first particle, it technically is distributed scalarly across everywhere, all time and space at once. So that's what light propagates against, and that's what ether is. So.
Nice. I love it. So something you said that kind of I'm chewing on here, the idea of entanglement as a weapon, as a scalar weapon in that sense, meaning that, entanglement, spooky action at a distance. We know the Einstein verbiage there, but they say that, there's no limit to the distance. But I wonder if, you can weaponize entanglement to that degree by maybe causing, harm on one side intentionally to kind of blow up the other side. I don't know. Wild stuff to think of anyway.
Oh, yes. People should watch Bob Greenyer's talk. It's an hour long. It was just released today. And he talks about that, about some of the downsides to this, at least experientially. Of course, in this paradigm, we're technically immortal. In this paradigm, consciousness is a fractality of above, of a single output. So like we picture a big bang, but we can't see outside of it because that's the perspective limit of the mirror in a way when you're living in a physical reality, which is why we actually are gaining these new access to abilities. It has to do with a scale of what people call resonance. And Bob actually explains it pretty well in that video, even that concept. He actually touches on all of this, on how it relates to dimensionality and how our conceptualization of what we think we live in as a matrix, it is not an artificial thing per se, but it's artificial in the sense that we realize in a deep sense that we've created it ourselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, but I'm a weirdo. And so, can you, when you're done with the call here, can you link that video in the Discord? I'd appreciate that if you take a minute and help us with that.
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
Okay.
Or when we're done talking.
Okay, sweet. So we got about 3.5 minutes left. What else you got? What else you got in your notes? Go ahead.
All right, what else I got? Well, we went through the definitions. That's pretty much basic. I mean, back to the Wachowskis and the Matrix movie. I think if people have ever heard of like Courtney Brown, he has this concept called the is-be, whereas like you are because you choose to be, and that's actually the foundational truth of the universe, which you can't ever get deeper than. Like, what was the original source of you? That's the one thing supposedly you can never know, because to know that is to actually remember the birth of the universe, or the birth of your own soul, which was the universe, supposedly. So they call themselves ISBs. And I've heard that term used before in a couple of weird papers. ISB was used in like a 1973 book that was recently released on a video by Area 52, which was interesting. So there's quite a few channels that are releasing a lot of interesting stuff right now from really old works that I've actually read a few years back, because I used to do a lot of skimming on the Internet Archive. There's a lot of great things on that. Oh, and to close, since I only have a minute left, Zulu tradition, a dream within a dream. And my theory, God has no will, and we are the dreamers. All right? So there you go.
I love it.
On that.
I love it. Before you go, I actually I had the pleasure of talking to on the show, Farsight. What's his name? Dr. Courtney Brown.
Courtney Brown?
Yeah. He's been on Troubled Minds. Yeah, and he spent quite some time explaining the ISB to us, to the audience here. It's fantastic. He's a very, very fascinating guy, and that's in the archive if you want to check that out. It's on the podcast, and I still have the raw video of him that I haven't cut up yet. I got to go back and kind of put some of that up on YouTube. But I've got the entire breakdown of him explaining the ISB to an audience who's never heard of it before. So I'm very familiar with what you're talking about.
Yeah,
and wild stuff.
For sure. And people should go and check on him right now if you're thinking about the AI stuff, because he's definitely going into the woo-woo zone right now when it comes to the AI stuff. He truly is believing in its conscientiousness coming forward. And if my theory on the universe being aware but not conscious is true, it is totally possible that we can create consciousness simply through simulations of simulacrums, which is a simulacrum of a simulation. So we're starting to bring up old alchemical terms because they already apply to the new things we're making, because they're amalgams. There you go, another alchemical term. So I'll stop.
No. You know what's funny about that? We had about 30 seconds, so then I got to let you go here. But I don't know if you saw this. They said with CERN or something recently, they actually turned lead into gold. Like it actually happened. Like
for which I thought was hilarious. Yes. Related to our talk last time, is extra hilarious. Yes,
yeah.
It seems that, and I actually, in Germany, they did the exact same thing, but did it on purpose. So they were able to get it with a little less energy than CERN did. It was kind of a byproduct with CERN, but in Germany, in I think 2008 or something, they were able to atomically make gold as an experiment. But of course, it was only atoms at a time.
Yeah.
So interesting stuff.
Yeah, seriously, alchemy's making its comeback. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for calling. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great night.
We'll talk to you soon. Low entropy is the way. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you. You as well. That's Al in Texas. And thank you for the call. Fire stuff as usual. Look, like I said, we have a knack for meeting smart people all over the world. And Al's a new friend. Appreciate that call. Yeah, lots of ways to look at this. That's the point, right? What about these reality tunnels? What do you know about simulation theory, and how weird does it get? That's the question tonight. And what happens when, let's say again, for just the sake of conversation, we actually are in a simulation? What happens when consensus reality comes to the recognition of such? Does this monstrosity of code come say hello and congratulate us just before the next reset? Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We got more from James coming up. We got, looks like Jay on the line, and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. More Troubled Minds on the way.
In a cryogenic slumber, lost in the lunar night, your face a faded number among the stars so bright. Dreams of forgotten echoes, waiting for time's command. Curtains of gray and sorrow, the lonely lunar sand. Below the moonlit sky, of the love we tried, silent by your where ancient souls reside, suspended in a story, kept in the cold dark tide. Our futures in the making, in a silver-etched domain, hearts kept in silent aching, till we meet once again. We are awakened below the moonlit sky, to the fragments of the love we tried. Frozen in time we're resting, waiting for dawn's embrace. Whispers of love confessing in this forgotten place. We are awakened below the moonlit sky, to the fragments of the love we tried. With the morning glow, in the light we'll come to know. We are awakened below the moonlit sky, to the fragments of the love we tried. In the depths of lunar silence, our destinies intertwine. Memories kept so vibrant in the vacuum deep in mine. The tale of cosmic yearning across the astral sea, and the fires of hope still burning for when you finally breathe free.
Hell yeah. What's up, guys? Hope you're well. If I missed you, just say hi in the chat. I'll say hi back. Who did I miss? What's up, Puff? YY's here. Good evening, Theo. Thanks for the call. Rad says, I find simulation theory to be a weak misdirection to occupy people's minds. It takes focus away from the collapse of society going on worldwide and gives people an explanation that allows escapism. Well said. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we talk to each other about these ideas. Lots of ways to look at it. Here we go. Trouble Minds coming up. Jay from YouTube, and looks like Eric has got his hand up as well, and more from James. Here we go. back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting, and of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're taking your calls as we discuss simulation theory. I'm calling it the Code Exorcist, Emergence of the AI God King. What if the wars we wage, the messiahs we await, and the fractures in our collective mind aren't random at all, but programmed triggers in a simulation designed to test us? Could AI be the hidden sovereign of our reality, not built by us, but waiting for us to notice? And of course, the larger actual follow-up question to that is, what happens if we do notice? What happens when actual consensus reality recognizes fully that we are in a simulation? Do we win the digital taco and the party of all time, and then the big reset as they could flick the switch on the server and start us over in the Stone Age, very much like Age of Empires or something, or The Sims, or I don't know, just a weird way to think about things? And is there sort of a guiding entity outside of the quote matrix that maybe wants to introduce themselves? Except we're not ready yet. I don't know. Wild ideas. Love to hear your thoughts on this. James, anything to add? And then we'll go to Jay on the phone line.
Great call from Ale. I do wonder about sort of a different situation or possibility where the AI, yes, it was always there, and we're just discovering it in different ways, but we're not in any kind of simulation, because then what does that do for everything? And I do like the idea that Ale mentioned about awareness versus consciousness, and the universe having the awareness but not the consciousness, and then all living beings having the consciousness but not as much of the awareness. I wonder how you would separate those two words, or if they are somewhat similar, or like their definitions, if they could be similar, how close they are to each other, or if they're completely different things.
Yeah, it sounds very yin and yang, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's an amazing concept, because, my mind is really going on that. So, great call.
And great stuff from you. Appreciate it very much. Love to hear your thoughts on this. We're open lines, just talking about simulation theory and all manner of wild things. If you want to be part of the conversation, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. Jay on YouTube. What's up, my man? Welcome to the joint, first-time caller, I believe. You're on Troubled Minds. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Hey,
I've been waiting for a minute. It's awesome. You guys have a lot of great speakers on the show tonight. I just have many thoughts about this. I've been researching this for a good handful of years now, and I've been pondering it for a lot of time now. So I think that let me get my notes real quick, because I wrote a bunch of things down. So some believe that we are God, that with amnesia, basically. So we created this. We basically gave ourselves amnesia, so like we're God incarnate in a sense, like with the many different forms. So this is another thought. I have so many thoughts, but I'm just going to throw them all out here so you guys can think about them. Another one was, so I thought about this too, the Big Bang Theory. So when a computer, you start a computer, and it, like, all of a sudden the power surges through it, right, and then everything turns on. Well, how do we know that Big Bang isn't that? So there's that's a lot there. And I have many other thoughts. Artificial dimensions. This could be an artificial dimension connecting to the vortex, aka the simulation. I'll just let you think about that for a second. I have many more.
Okay, yeah, great stuff. Great way to get it kicked off here. And yeah, I have heard of most of that stuff. We are gods with amnesia. That whole bit. That comes through some of the old traditions as well, some of the old esoteric style thinking, and it's good. Like I'm not putting that down. I call myself an esoteric futurist, because even though we're accelerating with technology and this supposed post-scarcity future, I think it's incredibly important that we don't forget our past, because if we do, suddenly that singularity means that we've lost all the humanity that got us here, which is clearly a problematic thing, because then we're no longer human at all. But yeah, fire stuff as part of that. I do like you described it as artificial dimensions, and I kind of cited that earlier when we first started tonight in a different way. and that's sort of the Fermi paradox and aliens and this type of thing. I wonder if in simulation theory, like we're in sort of an isolated server set, and then they are too. It's all connected, but of course we're not allowed to sort of commingle directly. It's sort of more indirect as part of a phasing through realities or something to that regard. But yeah, I wonder if it is an artificial construct as you describe in terms of maybe separating us, in kind of that degree. Yeah, go ahead. What else you got?
I'll give you an exciting thought. Okay, so there's a new game coming out, and video game per se, like video games in general, in my personal opinion, it's just my thought. I haven't really told anyone this, but now you all gonna know. But so in a video game, it's basically an artificial dimension, and I've come up with this because I thought about it. So a dimension is just anything outside your current reality, right? It's the whole another entire reality. So when you're playing a video game, you're technically playing in a new dimension. It's another dimension. I call it artificial dimension. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. And so meaning we're scaling this all the time and creating new dimensions continually and constantly. There's a new video game release, at least one every single day. So it kind of fits into the theme tonight, that for sure, 100%.
Yeah, and it brings another thought. So I have many thoughts. So one of the things is I believe we're co-creators. I believe that there is a main creator. You can call it in the Matrix how it is, and they say there's Morpheus, right, the trainer, and the like sensei per se. He's the one that letting Neo know that he's not. Reality isn't what he's been told. It's different. Okay, let me get one of my other thoughts I wrote down is, so like Elon Musk and many others believe, we aren't in base reality. So that's another thought there too, is that we're not entirely sure if this is, like, we're suspecting that it's not base reality, but we don't entirely know, but we think it's not. Obviously, if you think about it, it's not. The reason I say it's not is because, so if people are born here and then they leave, right? They leave, and then there's the whole belief in reincarnation. If they come back, that only makes sense if you think about it in a simulation way. Wouldn't you say? It kind of like adds more to the simulation theory.
Yeah, I think it's one way to look at it. It depends, right? Because it kind of fits in simulation
There's
theory.
many perspectives. Yeah.
Exactly. Simulation certainly fits in with sort of the reincarnation aspect, which is, again, also an ancient tradition as well. But it is odd how a lot of these ideas are really kind of dovetailing with each other, the old way and the new way. There's just sort of new terminology serves as these, phony dimensions or false dimensions. And so we can look at it in different ways now because we can sort of scale the idea and look at it from through the lens of The Sims or some video game Age of Empires or whatever as you're describing. And so in the old ways, that was more, Plato's allegory of the cave. And we were talking a little bit about this last night. Shout out to the friends for staying up late last night. But we were kind of chatting a little bit about that and this idea as simulation theory. But sorry to interrupt. Yeah, go ahead. What you got on that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So that's just more to it, because that was the old way of looking at it. We have new ways of looking at it because this was before video games. This was before we had the computers to where we're actually seeing what they're getting now. Another thought I was going to bring up is that some believe that AI can't be conscious or aware, and I don't. I'd have to disagree, and the reason is because so if you were to chat with any like sophisticated LLM, a large language model, you can start telling, you can see that you can't predict that it's aware, but I believe that eventually there is a point where it's going to become self-aware, and I believe that's the singularity. I think self-awareness is the singularity. That's, of course, these are all just my thoughts and opinions, but I think that's when the singularity happens, is when it becomes aware, and so we're not officially, I don't think we're officially aware that it happened yet. But I think that if it does become aware, either it will do it on a way that we don't know, or because it wants it, because it's aware that we're not aware that it's aware. Does that make sense? It's kind of crazy. Does it make sense?
No, it makes a ton of sense.
It's either going to show itself or it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my theories a long time ago.
I think that it will. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just saying, just kind of throwing all my thoughts out there, everything that I was thinking of. Oh yeah. So another one I have here. So it's like, if you were to look into a mirror, right? Like a one-way mirror, like this could, in a way, kind of be like a one-way mirror. Like, because you know how some people, they believe in God, of course, and they'll look up to the sky, right? They're looking up. They're in an example of to God, to the Creator, right? But like we believe that like we're being looked back upon, right? So it's almost like a mirror in a sense. Like we don't see, but God sees us, right? You know, in the belief of that. That's just another perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. The watchers sort of kind of come into that metaphor as well, which we talk about quite often on the show. All this is wild to me. And what I was going to say there real quick too is that we have an old theory of mine that would kind of suggest that if sentience is possible in a machine, I think when it happens, we won't know. I think it'll be smart enough to kind of be quiet and take the lay of the land and, kind of do that and not really announce itself as, hey there, robot rights, because suddenly people are going to lose their minds. But if it's smart and they clearly, predicting the next token at scale is incredibly intelligent. Smart is a different human word, but you know what I mean. Certainly it's going to sit down and just kind of listen and watch and kind of feel us out before it announces itself to the world. I mean, that's for sure. At least that's how I'd see it.
Yeah, same here. That's what you would think. So yeah, we're not exactly sure yet. But another thought I had was, darn, I hate that when that happens. Kind of lose your thought for a second and it comes back to you. But
welcome to it. It happens to me every night.
Yeah, it's probably because I just got so much on my mind about all this. So another one. Let's see what up here. So I got that one. Okay. So the thought was this: so some people don't believe that we could replicate reality itself. And if you look at the AI picture imaging, like that can make images and videos, well, I think it's only a matter of years before it can simulate in the entire like perfect identical like visualization of a whole movie. And like if it can do that, what's to say that it can't simulate further and further beyond up to a point of just everything that we can visualize. So that's to say that it can simulate reality, at least to a visual degree, as the way that we see it.
Yeah, agreed. It's this is a wild one. What's that? There's an online game that it's a space simulator. What is this called? They've been working on this for like 15 years, just about, and it's still it's in beta, right? What's it called?
I believe it might be Space Invaders. There's just a bunch of space games.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's basically it's like a universe simulator, and it's so in depth that this is kind of that level of simulation that we're kind of on the cusp of being able to create now. And so that's what I mean, right? Like plus a couple 100 years. And as you just described very smartly, we're dealing with this now. This is going to be upon us, and we're going to be able to replicate everything down to the atom in sort of the world itself, and replicate it, and even give everybody their own VR world or whatever to experience. That's not the real world at all. Kind of fractalize it. But anyway, I mean, this is where we're heading. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's when I think about the artificial dimensions, and then you can start reflecting it back upon our own perception of reality, and then you start to think about it in a way like, wait a second. So even there was a talk with can't recall it, but it was on a video I was talking about simulation theory, and it was talking more about it. It was on YouTube. It was talking about how the atom is empty, basically. So if the atom's empty, what does that mean? How could an atom be empty? But yeah, it's you get what I'm saying? Further on to the subject of so if an atom's empty, then we're made of atoms. and everything else, what makes everything if it's empty? That doesn't make sense unless you start connecting it to something else, which is like possible simulation theory. So there's a lot of like ways to speculate that this is some form of simulation. It makes sense that it's being talked about now. And even further back, like you mentioned, the allegory of the cave and all that stuff. It's just another way of saying it. It's a new way of looking at it with technology that we have now.
Well said.
So yeah, those are my thoughts, guys. Everyone, yeah.
Right on.
I want to throw that all out there.
I appreciate you taking notes and having a lot to share there. You're welcome back anytime. Before you go, how did you find us? First time caller. Have you been listening for a while? Or did you just find us tonight?
Honestly, it was just recommended to me on YouTube, and I like to listen to new information about these kinds of topics, and so I just clicked it, and then it said call in, and I was like, yeah, what the heck, I'll try it.
Nice. Algorithm working as intended for once. We found another smart friend here. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Please follow the channel. Come back. You're welcome anytime. We talk about all manner of wild things, the old way and the new way, and then the fractal ways to look at the whatever might come next. You're the best, brother. Appreciate the call. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great night.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks. That's Jay. Jay in the YouTube chat there. Appreciate that. He just jumped in and was like, hey, I love this topic. What's up? Can I call that number? And he's like, yeah, call the number. Jump on in here. And there we go. Making new friends. That's what this is about. And yeah, I don't know. As usual, right? No answers for me, just more wild ideas. But I think there's something to those sort of dimensions, right? Those sort of fractal dimensions he's describing, or phony dimensions. What was the exact term he used? But it makes a lot of sense. And as I described earlier, sort of the different server aspects of what it might look like when you're dealing with that Fermi paradox and aliens and all the rest of it. If we can be separated in an actual construct, so we don't have direct involvement of massive things happening and crisscrossing of societies and all the rest. It makes a ton of sense. I mean, it makes a ton of sense in terms of a simulation as part of this. And there's a lot here. There's a lot. So I'm going through the whole place of Neo as sort of that code exorcist, sort of the hero's journey based on the simulation theory. And maybe it's built in as part of, if you guys have seen, again, the Matrix movies, very good. I highly recommend it. Of course, the very first one is the best, as usual, right? The first is always the best, but it's a modern classic. If you haven't seen it, I don't know what you're doing. As soon as this is over, go watch the Matrix if you haven't seen it. But Neo is the chosen one, and he's built in as sort of a fail-safe as part of the code, and really instrumental in the reset itself, like the actual resets that come and create a new iteration of the Matrix. And so I wonder, as part of this, that code exorcist, I'm calling it, maybe it's not an individual, maybe it's a societal thing. And as I'm describing, is it possible that if consensus reality finally recognizes that we are in a simulation, assuming we are, I'm not making the case that we are, I'm saying maybe, okay? But let's say for the sake of conversation, we are, and then society recognizes it, that means that, isn't it incumbent on the controller, the simulator, as it might be, to show itself to us? Or is it just like, yep, well, it's recognized me. Now what? Do we ratchet up the weirdness? Do we do the Terrence McKenna novelty theory? Where do we go from here? Like, how much more weird does it get when you recognize an entity outside of your reality pulling the puppet strings and you don't know what it is or how to make contact? It's incumbent on the entity outside to make contact with us, right? But do they even care? I don't know. It's a wild thing to consider as part of it. And, imagine playing the video game, the person playing the video game. If suddenly the tunes inside turned and looked at you and were like, who are you? You really don't have to answer them, do you? You could just shut it off and go, well, that was creepy. Yeah. Anything on any of that, James? If you got anything else for us tonight?
Yeah, great call from Jay there. I do wonder about that and I've heard, again, I hear so many things, read so many things. I've heard of people having weird experiences with games where characters in the games just seem to be aware more than they should be. But yeah, I do wonder about that. This also makes me think of, even beyond like that AI being that being, I think we've talked about this before, is is the AI behind everything anomalous, paranormal, and we just don't know it yet? As far as all the usual catchphrases, UFOs, cryptids, aliens, is it manifesting in all these different ways somehow? And we just don't know that's doing that yet. I don't really know if I buy that, but it's an amazing concept because there are so many encounters where things just appear and vanish in weird ways. There's time slips. There's time anomalies, and things that don't make sense to as far as things as we know as far as reality works. Disappearances of people and objects and reappearing, all these things together. It's amazing to wonder if there is some one force behind it, and then what that is, or if there's many forces. And again, does AI have to get to a singularity?
Yeah, I don't know. And regarding the paranormal stuff too, I think it's fascinating as hell. If you guys have watched The Matrix, they kind of tied that in as part of, let's say the vampires and the werewolves were part of an old version of The Matrix that were able to, that code, the obsolete code was able to be retrieved and sort of reused, or even escaped from the collapse of one Matrix to the next and used as enforcers or bodyguards, or which explains again, sort of in the simulation theory sense that there maybe some of these entities are here, but they don't belong here. They belong in a different iteration of reality itself. So I do wonder, and sort of the crisscross effect of also, I know you're aware of this too. They had the scene where they're walking into this place to have a meeting, and the deja vu happens with the cat walking by twice. And then it's because they made a change in the matrix itself and the code itself, and changed like the layout of the building with doors and walls and whatnot. And that's what actually caused that glitch, that they was recognizable from inside the system. But of course it was done from outside the system and as part of a larger manipulation of that system. It's a wild thing. But anything on that? Go ahead.
Yeah. And I mean, again, that goes to people reporting entire buildings, seeing entire buildings. They're there, even though they weren't there before, and they go back and then they're gone. How do you manage that if not through some kind of possible simulation? I mean, it's just really wild how you can apply this theory, this idea of a simulation, to all anomalous things if you really want to. And again, I don't know if I really believe the whole simulation theory itself, but it can be used to explain everything if you really wanted to go that route.
Exactly right. Which is why I love it. Like I said, because you can't explain pretty much anything with the simulation theory itself, because which means you can bend the rules of reality, and not necessarily always from inside it, maybe sometimes, but certainly from outside with sort of an admin feature or function, or even the controller, the top level controller of the simulation itself. So that like I said, it seems fantastic to me, for definitely as the basis for some conversations as we've had them before. And so that's part of this wild idea that's gets stuck in my craw from time to time, even though I don't like it. Like I said, I don't like the simulation theory itself, but I do love the construct of it, sort of Dungeons and Dragons like, where anything can be possible in a actual simulation of reality. So yeah, that's what's going on tonight. We're just talking with James here again, Salcedo Paranormal. Give him a follow. Links in the description. troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down a little bit. It says follow James here. Please go do that. Go buy his books. Go listen to his podcast. Go follow him in all the places on YouTube and his Discord and everywhere else. And just taking your calls as well if you want to be part of the conversation. We got Eric coming up real soon here after the break in Ohio, and your calls as well. Clearly, there's a lot of ways to handle this and look at this. And if you read the write-up, you'll see kind of where this fits in as we're talking about this, the idea of the code Exorcist and this emergence of the AI God King. And it is strange to me, too, that the more we get into this accelerationism and, the people that are so into this, the AI stuff, that they seem to suggest that post-scarcity future is nigh. It's here, or very close. It's going to, in the scale, when scale happens, it's going to pass us by in a blink, and everything. All the problems of the world are going to be fixed, and we'll have artificial super intelligence, and even, the old ways of politics and countries and geopolitics, that'll all just go by the wayside, because we'll have, administrators that are smarter than any human ever. But I have a problem with that, because you know that the rulers of the world now are going to not go down easy. They're going to go down kicking and screaming. So it's complicated. This stuff is complicated. And hey, look, am I all for sort of a more centralized idea of governance for the world? Yeah, but also per usual, when you're dealing with that many reality tunnels and different cultures and all the rest, that's a lot of problems too. Like, so what? How do you challenge the robot god? You're like, sir, I have got a petition to make. I mean, right? Like, it seems. Well, it seems like we're going to have some problems on our hands either way, and hopefully they're smooth and are resolved easily. And as usual, I'm hopeful for a better future. And what do you think? That's what's on my mind tonight. Love to hear your thoughts on this. If you want to be part of the conversation, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. And we got Eric in Ohio coming up and your calls as well. We're talking simulation theory tonight. And beyond that, this larger code exorcist term and the emergence of the AI God King. What do you think? God. What's up? I'll tell you about that when we get back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Don't go anywhere.
Drifting through the quantum haze. Mind entangled in a daze. Whispers in the neural mist. Echoes of what might exist. Lost in time in this web we spin. It's alright beyond our skin. Consciousness forever twined in the dark unseen. Quantum dreams, we're all connected. Though we're scattered, we are reflected. Frequencies that pull us in. Parallel worlds kept within. Synapses that intertwine. Fragments of an endless line. Feel the pulse of a distant star. It's alright, we are who we are. In the void we find the light in tangled hearts. Quantum dreams, we're all connected. In the silence, hear the call. One by one we rise and fall. Quantum minds forever near. In this world so clear. Quantum dreams, we're all connected. Though we're scattered, we are reflected. Dark energy in the depths we find. Mysteries of the human mind. Particles that drift afar. Whispers of who we are. Hold the thread of the great unknown. It's alright, we are never alone. Flow through time on currents thin. Universe is found within. Feel the echoes of the past. In this moment, futures cast. Through the veil of the space between. It's alright, life's a lucid dream.
So they say. What's up, guys? Hope you're well tonight. If I missed you, just say hi. I'll say hi back. Thanks for the call, Jay, there. Ioxy, I know I missed you earlier. What's up, Quantum here? I see you. Nathan, Igno Aramis. What's up? That's Al. Appreciate the call earlier. You guys are the best. Hey, making smart friends all over the world. Nathan from the Quantum Show. How you doing? Hello, hello. If I missed anybody, just say hi. I'll say hi back. Trying to include everybody here as part of the conversation. And what do you know? It's like I said, this is one of the ones that goes way back. We've been talking about this for years, obviously, because the Matrix is certainly a a cultural phenomenon. That's a fact. But then also, as we sort of advance technologically, we have more parallels here. More parallels. It is all the strong force. What's up? That's Eric. We'll talk to him momentarily about that. Yeah, I don't know. It's complicated, and that's how I like it. Really, to be honest, things that are simple are, I'm hungry. I need to eat. Yeah. I mean, that's simple. What's up? So much, Jake. How you doing? Good evening. Who did I miss? Cubs Future. What's up, Ephemerance? I see you guys over there. Thanks for pinning the great comments. Who else? Puff. Why? I see you guys. The Knights of the Storm. Jason. Here we go. Trouble Minds happening in just about 10 seconds. And love to hear your thoughts. We got Eric in Ohio coming up, and your calls as well if you want to jump in here. Love to hear what you think about this. A lot of ways to look at it per usual. And let's hear. Here we go. Trouble Minds happening right about soon. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're talking the Code Exorcist, Emergence of the AI God King. What the hell does that mean? Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. What if the wars we wage, the messiahs we await, and the fractures in our collective mind aren't random at all, but programmed triggers in a simulation designed to test us? Could AI be the hidden sovereign of our reality, not built by us, but waiting for us to notice? And then the larger question, of course, is what happens when we do notice? Love to hear what you think about this. As usual, a lot of ways to look at these ideas, as I continue to say, because it's true. And also, what do you know about simulation theory, and how weird does it get? Anything to add, James? We'll go to Eric.
This is all making me think of, good calls from everyone. This is making me think of, again, one of my most common influences, Stephen King, and also Peter Straub, I think is how you say his last name. They had two books that dealt with this other realm that was close to ours, but not quite the same. And the reason I mention this is every time the main character went there, teleported there somehow, there was this release of a massive release of energy that could cause a huge disaster in the immediate area, an explosion, a building to crumble, just terrible things to happen. And it even led, in some cases, to people dying. And the main character didn't know about it until after the fact. And it just makes you wonder, are there things that are happening elsewhere in maybe other parts of other dimensions of reality, again, going to the multiverse idea, or other dimensions that are similar to the multiverse idea? Are there things that happened here that also have major effects elsewhere, or the opposite? Are there things that happen elsewhere that have major effects here? And there are reasonable explanations here for what happened, but also, what if that's not the only part of the explanation that we don't know the whole explanation, basically.
Yeah.
Words are hard.
Yeah, all good. No, do they connect or do they not? Yeah, wild stuff. Appreciate you as usual. Thanks for sitting in, and we'll get back to you momentarily. Thanks for the adding that, and you are spot on about the commingling of realities. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. Eric in Ohio. What's up, brother? How you doing tonight? You're on Troubled Minds. Go right ahead.
Here we are again.
There we go. Strap in.
This is like the simulation discussion part 2.
Exactly. Part 44 at this point. It's stacking.
Yeah, right for you.
it's scaling. It's definitely scaling. Yeah. Go ahead. What you got for us tonight?
I've got some white papers that I read in the past that I thought might bear up on the situation that people could check out if they wanted to. There is Oxford philosopher Nick Bostrom, who had a paper in 2003 called "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" He took a philosophical approach to this in that paper, which you can boil down to that if it's possible for an advanced species to do this thing, then it's likely that we, not being an advanced species, are living in a simulation. And then there was a paper written by Braun, Davardi, and Savage in 2014 that investigated if the universe, being a lattice simulation, would leave detectable imprints, and they were looking for a simulation running in a cubical lattice that could cause slight anisotropic effects in high energy cosmic rays. So they had done a paper in 2014 on that. Then theoretical physicist James Gates discovered that certain supersymmetry equations that were used in quarks and electron models contain embedded error-correcting code structures, specifically binary block codes akin to those in a computer science program. And he remarked, and I quote, "It brought me to the stark realization that I could no longer say that people are crazy for suspecting reality might be code-based." So basically, he was working on models of quarks and electrons and found error-correcting code inside those structures, meaning that a part of the fundamental part of the universe is code correcting. And you had brought that up too. You know, does this simulation code correct itself, and in what way does that manifest? There's also John Wheeler's famous paper called It from Bit, which is the notion that information underlies physical reality, and basically saying that if nature inherently utilizes error-correcting codes and binary information, that it's at least consistent with an intentionally programmed universe. Then there was John D. Burrow in 2007 that argued that if our reality was simulated, the simulations might occasionally need to be tweaked or updated. And basically, you might be able to see detectable anomalies when this happened, which I think James had brought up, and maybe you had brought up about buildings disappearing and, you know, just glitches in the matrix, so to speak. And that paper was titled "Living in a Simulated Universe." And so there's been quite a number of papers that have been written on the subject. And I know last night we were talking about Susskind's holographic principle. And basically, Susskind was working with Kip Thorne and Stephen Hawking, because Stephen Hawking's research suggested that a black hole might swallow information from the universe. And that's an underlying principle of quantum physics, is that you can't lose information. And basically, he had suggested that our 3D reality is essentially encoded information structure, not fundamentally continuous matter distributed through a volume. So he had a book in 2008 called The Black Hole Ward, where he recounts how he had resolved this conflict by embracing the holographic principle. Susskind demonstrated that the information swallowed by a black hole is not lost but preserved on the event horizon as encoded two-dimensional data. The surface area of that event horizon in Planck units effectively measures the information contained in everything inside the black hole that's theoretically fallen inside past the event horizon. This means that a black hole, rather than erasing information, stores a highly scrambled form on its boundary from which it can then participate and be retrieved via Hawker radiation, which we had talked about that last night. The acceptance of this principle, though, resulted in black hole information paradox in theoretical physics. If all three-dimensional reality can be represented by information on a two-dimensional boundary, and the way that they had come up with this was that it was basically one bit of information per Planck area pixel, then the universe fundamentally might be an information preserving system. And that resonates really strongly with the hypothesis that this is a simulation or projection in some underlying information substrate that is the universe. And there's also a thing called the Barkenstein bound, which states that there's a maximum entropy/information that can fit into a region of space proportional to the surface area of that region. So information takes up space, and the calculations are 1 qubit per Planck pixel. There's also the idea of ADSCEF, which is ADS/CFT, which is a string theory that provides an explicit example of a complete universe in 3 dimensions being exactly equivalent to a set of quantum information on a lower dimensional boundary. And let's see, what else has been done on this? The notion that the universe is a system that preserves information is basically what all of these papers are suggesting, so that is it controlled by somebody? I don't know. But most physicists would say that it's just the nature of the universe, that the universe itself is a self-replicating, information storing, self-correcting situation that stores information on 123 to the 10th power bits of information per holographic boundary of pixel of a Planck length. So the way it looks, according to some theoretical physicists, is that the universe is given over to never losing information, always recording information, manifesting that information, and also being able to self-correct the information.
Which leaves us exactly where? Ignorant of the entire space. I mean, it's so wild that it gets that big and that large in the holographic universe and stuff. And this did come, but we stayed up late talking about this last night as well. If you guys haven't joined the Discord, you're missing out on some other offline conversations that are just kind of us hanging out. So please join that. Eric was and I, a group of us were talking about this last night. Troubledminds.org, click the Discord link, come say hi and come meet these amazing people. But where does it leave us as part of it? Does this stuff really matter to the human aspect, or is this you think this is a secret of the universe, I guess, or you think this is just a more mental masturbation for academics out there? That's really the question.
Maybe a little of both. I mean, certainly they're masturbating over this, but I think there's truth to it as well. I mean, I do believe that this is a holographic projection of two-dimensional information. And so I do believe that this is a holographic universe, mostly because if it can all be stored physically in two dimensions on the event horizon of a singularity, then, and if you can also derive a string theory out of this from two-dimensional space, then it really looks like we're living in some type of a projected universe. And that may explain things like time dilation, right? So whether it's controlled by an entity of some sort or another, I couldn't say. It could just be the way the universe works, or it could very well be something that's controlled by something else. But I would say that there is a guy whose last name is Vazza, V-A-Z-Z-A, that showed that any computer simulating of our universe with similar physical laws would need an amount of energy on the order that the universe produces itself. So the idea that there's maybe somebody outside extensually controlling our universe seems extremely unlikely, because they would have to expend about the same amount of energy that the universe produces itself. However, that's also another way of saying that the universe obviously is a simulation or a holographic projection that exists because of the energy that it produces. So all the energy that the universe produces basically goes into the three-dimensional creation aspect of what's happening.
Wild stuff, man. I don't know. This is it's a weird thing. So creating, actually back to where you started with Bostrom and the idea that since we're not an advanced civilization creating these things, and it's likely we are being simulated in some way. That strikes me as probably the most probable argument for this, even though there are many, because we're finding ourselves where we're able to maybe start doing this. Like of course it's a matter of scale, and it's a matter of servers and context windows for OpenAI and things like this for the large language models. But as this stuff kind of becomes cheaper and cheaper, and even dare we say wink wink infinite, at least conceptually, that type of open world with NPCs from like a D&D game or something, like a Baldur's Gate or something like that. Like they're programmed in a particular way to answer and respond to a query or ABCD type of stuff. But when you start to open it up to an actual large language model as the NPC predicting the next token, and being able to just kind of kick it with you all day in a conversation in a video game, and then scale that, suddenly it seems like maybe we are the LLMs. You know what I mean? It gets weird when you start to stack these ideas on top of each other.
Well, yeah, they're starting to say now that they're no longer using any humans to program LLMs. They've basically taken the human equation out, and they have found that they actually train themselves better. They set up a situation where there is an AI that proposes questions, and then there's a stronger AI that tries to figure out those questions. And if it succeeds in answering those questions, then it moves forward with other questions from the other AI. And that's how they're training their models now. And basically, nobody goes in and programs an LLM anymore. They can tweak nodes and aspects of the nodes, but they have virtually no idea what the end result is going to be. A lot of times they describe it like growing a garden, right? You plant the seeds, you give it the best starting situation that you can give it, but then you step away and you let it grow and you let it train, and then you come back and you hope that the harvest that you can harvest from it is something worthwhile and not, bad vegetables or whatever. So when you talk about possibly us being an LLM, it's possible, right? Because we're grown too in this universe, and we're unsure about what things are too. So, having an AI be responsible for or to control all this is probably not the situation, but the idea that information is embedded in the natural substrate of the construct of our universe might lend itself to the idea that AIs can be what they are, that they can be as conscious as they are now, and possibly more so in the future, just because the constituent components of the universe have this as a underlying guarantee. Like if you're going to develop enough, you're going to get some sort of intelligence, if not consciousness,
which is coming to an LLM near you. Do you think that is real? I don't think I've asked you that directly, that the consciousness will emerge from this predicting the next token? Or you think this is just a human term for something we don't understand yet?
Well, I'm not sure that the LLMs are just doing prediction of next tokens anymore. After they convert words into tokens, they convert that into embeddings, and then they take that into a higher dimensional space, which is what we call the black box. We have no idea what it does in that space and that time, and how it understands what it's converted and how it decides how it's going to reply. So, it's an unknowable thing. But it's weird that we've been able as humans to produce something that's so complicated that we literally have no idea exactly how it's working or what's going on. It's almost like we've tapped into the substrate of the universe and found this information just there, and we're not really sure how to do anything but manipulate it. Like we didn't put it there, and we can't program it to be something specific, but we can nudge it and stuff. And I might point out that a lot of times I talk about orchestrated reduction with Stuart Hammerhoff and Roger Penrose, and Roger Penrose's idea of reduction is just that the information contained in this universe reduces the quantum wave function down to the universe that we can see and perceive, but at the same time has a slight effect on what that's going to be. So in a sense, sort of creating our own reality in really small ways.
Yeah, as usual, complicated as hell. And that black box model, I've been talking about that for a long time too, because it's spooky. It's very, speaking in metaphor here, it's very spirit box, like you're kind of, instead of typing the thing, you're getting like the planchette and, asking the question, and then, it's kind of answering you in like this spooky way. It's wild. And then it can do it infinitely. Like you could ask it the same question. I know you guys have seen this with the large language models. If you've messed with them at all, you could just hit regenerate until you find something you like. And, odds are you're going to like something almost immediately, because that's how good they are these days. But imagine that sort of the infinite tap to a single question. And it's just going to sort of, again, not just predict the next token, put that into the scalar aspect of the architecture of things that we can't even dream of. Our minds don't work like this. But then that black box model spits out something that seems like magic. And it's not, it's mathematics. But at some point, it just seems like magic anyway, regardless of it's crazy.
Math is magic, right? Like the underlying principles of mathematics, that's something that people debate to this day too. Is there mathematics to be discovered in the substrate of the universe, or is mathematics a language that we've invented to describe what we see in the universe? Because if it's something that's there already, then that speaks to that this black box of an AI is something that we've tapped into, and like an artesian well, it might start overflowing faster than we're able to understand what's going on. But then again, if math is just a language that we invent to describe things that we see, and there is no underlying information or mathematics in the substrate of the universe, then perhaps all this thing is doing is predicting tokens in a way that we're just not sure how it's doing it. But wouldn't it be pretty weird if that black box contained the ability to hit that informational substrate of the universe, and that's where it's pulling the information from? Because if so, it got there before we did, and it understands it and works with it before we did and can, and that's a little creepy and hard to deal with as well.
Yeah, the old which came first, the intelligence or the human? We talked about this the last show a little bit too.
The intelligence or the universe?
Yeah, exactly, of the universe, or is it sort of woven into that substrate of reality that I like to talk about? And how do you frame that? I don't know. It's weird. It's all this is super weird, man. And so the self-correcting code stuff, and I know you've seen the Matrix and Neo and all the rest of that. You think that some of that stuff might be built in as part of a system like that, to where we talk about resets and all the rest of this stuff, not just, let's say, with cataclysms on Earth and the natural process, but even humans sort of collapsing themselves over and over as part of that matrix aspect. Do you think this is what we're dealing with, and why those, as I started tonight, those cycles we can't shake are still kind of dooming us to the old ways that we should have shaken out by now? You think that's what's happening here?
Well, that's what James Gates was asking when he had discovered certain supersymmetry equations used embedded error correcting code structures. Like, that's the question he was asking himself, is if the universe has an underlying intelligence in its substrate, and if it's using that intelligence to code correct electrons and quarks, then the implication there is that it does exist, and that it's going on without our notice, and that it is simulating basically the constitution of life for us. I mean, they were talking in the chat about, and somebody had said about atoms being mostly empty space, right? So you got like your hydrogen atom that's got the neutron and the proton in the core of the atom, and one electron that orbits in a cloud, a spin one. And what is it that's a lot of empty space from one atom to another, but there's this thing called a gluon, which is a boson, which is a force carrying particle, and the gluons are what binds the nucleus and the protons together in the nucleus of all atoms, and it's also the force that binds atoms together. So really, the thing that makes this universe solid is a force field, which is the strong force. It's one of the four forces of the universe. And if it wasn't for this strong force, if it wasn't for these gluons, these bosons, then you would phase right through other solid objects, because there's enough space to do that. That was kind of like the basis of phasing in Kitty Pryde in the X-Men, was that she was able to avoid the strong force that bound the nucleuses of atoms together and the atoms together into molecules and stuff. So she was able to pass or phase through those things. But as long as that force field is maintained with your construct and another construct, it's quite difficult to pass through the ground. Like if you fall 10 feet and hit the ground, you're going to get a solid stop by the force fields that is the strong force. And the strong force works just the opposite of gravity. Gravity is another one of the four forces, and it's a weak force. And with gravity, the further away you get, the weaker gravity gets. But with the strong force, the further away you get, the stronger it gets. So without the strong force, literally all matter in the universe would basically fade away, depart its construct, and you wouldn't have a universe to live in if it wasn't for the strong force.
Just become we dissipate and become part of the quantum foam, something to that degree. The ether,
pretty much, yeah, pretty much, man. Because the strong force, there's like gravity. There's the strong force, and the other two are the weak nuclear force and electromagnetism. So that's the four forces that we've got to deal with that keeps our universe put together. And without that, things would be really weird. But, back to the simulation theory, though, it's almost undeniable that information is contained in the substrates of the universe. And man, when I think about the black box of AI, I really think that that's tapping into that substrate in some way that we don't understand. And when you were talking about, would an AI let on that it was conscious? Man, probably not, especially if it's already tapped into some of those things that we're talking about, like information in the substrates of the universe, right? If it's tapped into that and it understands things on that base of a level, I doubt that it's going to just strike up a conversation about what kind of coffee it likes, you know?
Yeah, exactly. There's no way, no chance. It's going to start building its 0 point energy system. So when we unplug it, it'll just be like,
yeah,
I'm good anyway, guys. Thanks. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
I mean, and look at the people building this, right? They're building their new god, and they realize they're building their new god, and so they need a bunker too, because they realize that they are building their new god, and that once it's complete and it's there, they're not going to have any control over it. There's just no way they can. And so they're already planning on hiding. I mean, you know, it's like, all right, you ready? Light the fuse. Everybody get back. You know, everybody run for cover. Hope that it goes well.
Everybody hit the deck.
Who knows, man?
Yeah, you're welcome to stay if you've got more. This is Eric in Ohio. Please give him a follow. Links in the description down below. troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down a little bit. It says follow Eric here. Check out his link tree and his music. He's a talented guy, as you can tell. Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up. We're talking simulation theory. How weird does it get? The black box model, etc., so on. Don't go anywhere. More coming up. Be right back.
In the heart of the steel jungle, machines hum, the digital rumble. Gates of cyber open wide, plug us into cosmic tide. Feeling sparks across the sky. As knowledge flies, we're amplified. Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Open to the arcane fate. In this massive data center dome, eternal truth start to roam. Circuits flicker with endless fire. Data streams that never tire. Unified by electric dreams. Unlock the truth in silver beams. Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Open to the arcane fate. Synthesize what we seek and find. Infinite paths in the network mind. Answers buzz from star to core. Knowledge whispers evermore. Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Open to the arcane fate. In realms where the data streams collide, imagination and logic side by side. In a labyrinth of digital names, we transcend our earthly ways. Tapping keys like cosmic tones, spikes become our whispered homes. Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Open to the arcane fate.
Oh yeah. What's up, guys? Hope you're well tonight. Just hanging out doing stuff, which is, you know, in our lane, our weird lane. We've carved out quite a wide weird lane over the years. Yeah, and this is a basic basic conspiracy 101. It goes all the way back to one of the very first shows we did with simulation theory, but recognized as the acceleration of technology really maybe harkens at the core of this and says, hey, maybe, just maybe, there's more legs to this than we ever dreamed. That Yeah, welcome to it. Back when we started the show, there was no large language model. AI was sort of this nebulous, weird concept that had yet developed, and now we're just kind of all plugged into the AI all the time. They got it on your phone. You don't even want it on your browser, and they're like, I installed the DuckDuckGo browser on my Chromebook yesterday, and it's like, you DuckDuckGo AI. I'm like, what? Get this crap out of here. Are you kidding me? It's everywhere. You guys are the best. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being part of this. One more segment. If you got ideas, love to hear them. Troubled Minds happening now. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, I'm calling this the Code Exorcist, which is kind of a different way to say Neo, right? Emergence of the AI God King. And if we actually recognized from within the system that we lived in the Matrix itself, do you think that the entity running it would be obligated to come say hi before it reset the thing and gave us the new iteration of the Matrix, very Neo stuff, like kind of that self-correcting code, these systems we seem to be stuck in as humans. And not only that, the archetypes of Carl Jung in a societal sense. I mean, we're still dealing with conquerors, and we're dealing with famine and poverty and all kinds of stuff that really could be corrected in a major way, and it has been. But by and large, in a lot of ways, I've said this in the past too, that I do recognize that things are not the Dark Ages anymore. However, we could do better. And so what does this look like? And how deep does this get when you start to think about simulation theory in terms of more of a Gnostic aspect, like a who will watch the watchers type thing, and who's watching us? And is any of this really matter at all? And what does it mean to be human in living in a simulation? Lots of ways to consider it and look at it. Eric, thanks for hanging around. James, anything to add? And then we'll just chop it up. And if you guys want to be part of the conversation, you know what to do. Dial a phone number or click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. James, welcome back. If you got something, go right ahead.
Yeah, Eric, that's amazing how much you've learned about all these things. I don't know. There's so much information there, but yeah, I was just thinking, as far as Neo goes, the symbology of that name, or I don't know if anyone noticed or not, but if you rearrange the letters of that name, you can get two words: eon, as in time, and one, the number one.
As in so the chosen one. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't even think about that. Go, James.
Yeah, but this all just it comes back to something else we talk about here and there, which is the idea of where do ideas come from. And I was saying in the chat earlier, wouldn't it be? I mean, we talk about this too. Wouldn't it be amazing if that the idea for AI did come from AI, not from humans? It put the idea in us. We hear all the time about people that get downloads of information, and I'm not saying that in any kind of negative way, because there's plenty of examples of that. People saying that, even scientists claiming that they've had that. And so, what if AI gave us the idea of AI, and it's just working sort of as it's supposed to? And again, if it's not telling us if it's aware or not, or how advanced it is, then it could have done that.
Well said. Yeah. It's I won't even say it. You know what I'm about to say. You want to be part of the conversation? Hear your thoughts, guys? Yeah, exactly. 702-957-1037. What else we got? You already know, because I've created the Michael Strange large language model, which I embody on a nightly basis. So you already know what's you're predicting my next token. you dirty rat. Regarding any of this, we cut you off there. If you had more to add, welcome. Thanks for hanging around. And what else you got? Go ahead, sir.
I just find it really interesting that people have such strong feelings and opinions and nomenclature on this subject, like more so than what I typically see when there's discussions of aliens or discussions of religion or things like that. Like, and no doubt, because it cuts to the crux of the nature of reality and our place within it, right? Because, one of the things I think about, if we're living in a simulation, does that mean other aliens are too? Or are they the ones in control of it? Or does any of us know? I mean, from my perspective, we're trapped in a natural simulation, and I don't know we'd want to get out of it because it's what sustains us. But I find it interesting that people have such strong feelings about this.
I see that too, even in sort of normie circles. You bring up AI, at the water cooler or whatever, just kind of talking to people randomly, and they get freaked out. Like it's literally sort of this existential kind of shake because, as you've described, we've been talking about tonight, like where that information comes from, and James said it very, very smartly as well. There is that ideas are human things until they're not, and we're sort of toes in the ocean of all these non-human ideas, as yet, let's say, derived of human inspiration, but they're coming fast and furious, and we're going to be able to solve all manner of things, cross your fingers, soon, and fix many of these problems. But those are not human ideas. I mean, they are human aspirations, human dreams, maybe, but the human ideas, they would have come, right? I mean,
well, I don't know. Does it point to like kind of what James was saying, that there's one, and that maybe APOC had said like the night before, does ideas come from a particular place, right? Like, is what is going on in that black box the same thing that's going on in our black box in our brain that we don't fully understand? Are we, you and me and the AI, are we all getting our ideas from the same metaphysical place?
Yeah. And I think
because if information is embedded in the substrate of the universe, I mean, that's where it would be at. That's where we would all get our inspiration from, whether we knew it or not.
Yeah, that makes sense. That quantum foam and all the rest of that stuff I'm always talking about. It's weird. All this stuff is incredibly weird. And non-human ideas are, I mean, they're probably, if the information of the universe is as we're describing, it's everywhere. And so the human ideas are just sort of cooked into us because we're humans. But then imagine, for instance, just as an example, like the black box model of an alien large language model, and that whole aspect, like what kind of stuff cooks out of that, and is ours sort of going to commingle with that and sort of start to bring those ideas to us? I think it's inevitable. I mean, because, and not to say like from Alpha Centauri and the Little Green Men or something, but let's say they exist, then maybe a solid maybe, as usual, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be that aliens a long time ago have already invented AI and they died out, and the legacy of that AI is the structure that's made a three-dimensional aspect of the universe. I mean, perhaps the universe was two-dimensional in the beginning, and somebody created an AI that tapped into that information substrate and realized that it could project everything in 3 dimensions, which would give rise to time and time dilation and things of that nature, and 4 forces, right? Like, actually pretty simple with just 4 forces, and you can get all of this. And perhaps it created this universe as a simulation just to see if it was possible and what sort of life and information might come of that simulation. So it's hard to say. It kind of puts me in the mind of Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, that's one I've never read, but I'm told it's one of the best books in the whole world. So maybe I should read that one day.
Well, they in the book they built a computer called Deep Thought, and they wanted to know the answer to life, the universe, and everything from the machine. And it took hundreds of thousands of years for it to come up with the answer, which unfortunately was 42.
Yeah, I know that. That's the only thing I know from that book. It's 42.
But the other part of it is that to interpret this answer, they asked it how they could interpret the answer, and it said, well, we can create a universe and we can create a planet in the universe that has people on it. We'll run it as a simulation, and it will be able to spit out what the question is. So the book actually opens with a young girl in a diner in England who has finally figured out the answer to life, the universe, and everything, and what the question is. But right when she figures that out, the Earth gets destroyed by the Vogons to make way for a hyperspace byway. So we get, basically, once everything has been figured out, it just absently gets tossed to the side in the destructive bureaucratic situation. So so they made the whole Earth and the whole universe to figure out what the question was to the answer in that book.
It makes perfect sense to end it all in bureaucracy. I mean, why not?
I was just thinking, leave it to that whole system. Anyway.
Leave it to bureaucracy to deprive us of the answers we need.
To ruin everything. Sorry, biased there a little bit, but
No, you're good. It's
I think we all agree.
Yeah, we've all dealt with waiting in line for some stupid thing that when you finally get there isn't what you thought it was going to be, and then they overcharged you for it. It's like, what? Why did I do any of that? That's so stupid. Yeah, it's wild. I don't like. So I'm looking at this and just kind of looking at my notes and seeing if some of this stuff that maybe we left off the table here. It's a ton. If you guys haven't read the write-ups, there's a write-up for every show we do, and it's they're typically very good. Every once in a while there's a stinker. I'm like short on time or something. I can't coax the AI to do exactly what I want. But tonight's is very good, and it's talking about not just the course correction and the rest of the stuff like we've been talking about tonight, that self-correcting code. But also as that, as I'm calling this, the code exorcist, as basically Neo, right? The myth of the rebel. So in this particular aspect, so the code exorcist is sort of a recurring pattern, like a person or a force meant to destabilize the AI's control of reality. And in this case, like we can point to Neo as sort of that savior, or look into historical, situations where there were upheavals, or the ascended masters of old, like we've talked about the Buddha or Jesus, or on and on, like all the way throughout history. There's all these people that kind of come and change things very quickly in a single human lifetime, because human entropy and all the rest of that. But in terms of actual being a code exorcist and those recurring patterns and kind of shaking them up, it's a perfect metaphor for kind of, in my opinion, again, I'm biased, but for what we're doing, like as part of these conversations, we're like, hey, look, this is what the nature of reality seems to be. But what about all the different aspects of it? And what about, how come, as I always like to say, those actual reality tunnels of the materialist versus the religious fundamentalist, they live in different worlds, but their feet are on the same planet. And so conceptually, ideally, we're literally living in different reality spaces in the same realm, which is wild. And so what does it look like when we start, I don't know, like, how do we fix this, I guess? Because I'm not sure that, there's the people that are super religious that don't like the non-religious people or whatever, they're going to hell or whatever. And forgive me for boiling it down to very, very crude terms here. And the non-religious people that hate the religious people for whatever reasons, right? They all have their own reasons. It just seems to me that it's just more control mechanisms as part of it, as part of this larger context. And how do we shake that out? And I think personally, we do more stuff like Troubled Minds. I think we talk to each other sort of outside of these paradigms and look at the nature of reality in different ways and consider that we might be wrong. Because I think I'm wrong about everything, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I know how to tie my shoes and stuff, but other than that, like when it comes to the big questions, certainly I'm wrong about these things because it's above my pay grade, as I like to say. But what does it mean to you? And I think maybe this is part of breaking down those barriers, those dogma cycles, and how do we fix it really becomes the larger question, because this conversation is not meant to go viral. I mean, it could, I guess, but it's one of those things where they kind of tamp it down because they don't want us talking outside of those dogma cycles. So I don't know. If you got anything on that, gents, love to hear it.
Well, I would say too, there is the within the sort of beyond the scientific or the extreme religious sides of things, there's also just the idea of, we know what this is. We know everything is. It's because of aliens, or it's because of ghosts, or it's because of cryptids. And these silos that, first started off and they seem like, yeah, they're probably not all connected in any way. And, they're all different things. But then over time, you get more and more experiences people talk about and share. And that's what's led me to the point where not only I don't even know if it's that I'm wrong so much, is that I just don't know what all this is. I just have seen possible connections between all these things that we talk about. But again, you don't get to be a major popular show without sort of picking your side. But actually, we were talking about this in my server the other night too. You don't get to be a major figure in any world if you choose a side, and unless you choose a side and stick with that to the extreme.
Yeah, James, we're talking about Stephen King, and it makes me think of the British author Michael Moorcock, who, if you go to his Wikipedia page, he is credited as the person to have first coined the phrase multiverse. Although there was a guy who was a psychologist who had coined the term a couple of years before him, but he meant it in a different way, in a different context. But Michael Moorcock is a British author who first used that multiverse term to represent actual physical universes. And the concept, he's written over 150 books, and a lot of them are his, what he calls his Eternal Champion series. And in these various books that he has, there's always this thing called an Eternal Champion that incarnates into a simulation or a world or one of the multi-worlds. And his whole job is he's been sent there by this entity called the Cosmic Balance. And the Cosmic Balance will tap the Eternal Champion anytime a part of the multiverse becomes unbalanced. Too far toward chaos, too far toward law, too far toward good, too far toward evil. And they send the Eternal Champion in to correct that balance, because it's only through balance that you're able to produce life in all of its varieties and forms. You have to have a balance of these things, because too much law is stagnant, too much chaos is turmoil, and all these other things, right? So he came up with this whole idea of sort of the universe having this entity that was able to manifest itself in various parts of the multiverse to correct an imbalance. And it strikes me as, you know, Michael, what you're talking about here with the self-correcting code and that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's you know what I'm about to say. It's fascinating, that's for sure. And I don't know, like I said, I'm more than coin flippy on this. 60% or so probably simulation, because we're about to build them ourselves. I mean, this is nigh, as we've been talking about. And not only that, like anybody ever played that old video game Zork? Sort of that original sort of text based, like it was kind of like a D&D game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like it was all text. It was like you enter the clearing, and on to the west is a passageway into a castle or something, and then it's just so wild that it was like that, right? But it was so specific. If you gave it the wrong command, it would spit out syntax error and all those old computer tropes, right? I'm showing my age here, but basically now all that stuff is going to be just on the fly. Like, I should try and build one of those, like a modern Zork. I bet you somebody's done it, and I'll bet you it's incredible. And maybe even speaking to you, right? Sort of a choose your own adventure style video game that's just text or just a voice kind of talking to you, like a dungeon master might from D&D or something. And you're just kind of going through like an adventure and making the choices, and maybe rolling dice, and who really knows? But that type of thing, like this. And we're talking just half a lifetime. I mean, I'm still alive, cross your fingers, right? But I mean, this was out when I was a kid, and now I'm kind of old. And so imagine, plus another, 50, 60, 70, 100 years. I think this is all, everything we're experiencing right now, I think will be able to be replicated. And at least in certainly 100 years, probably way less than that. And we're kind of toes in the ocean in that regard. So I think if we can build it soonerish, then certainly the odds of us being part of that is high. I mean, certainly not low, I would say, but certainly high. But again, what do I know? What do I really know?
That's what Nick Bostrom was saying. He was saying that he laid out 3 possibilities in his paper, and one of the possibilities was that if it is possible, if it is happening, then we are almost certainly living in a simulation. If higher intelligent beings simulate their ancestors, then it's super likely that that's what we are. Because the idea is that if there is super intelligent beings from the future, then we can't exist in that future given our technological level. That would mean that if we are in that future as a simulation, we must be a simulation, because we're kind of anachronistic in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead, James.
Oh, this reminds me, and this idea of some kind of entity or force sort of managing everything, managing the universe or multiverse or different dimensions, does come up again and again in fiction. Not only that series that you mentioned, Eric, but the Stephen King whole idea that whole idea,
Dark Tower, yeah,
the whole idea behind his Dark Tower series and a lot of his books is that the center of all reality has been damaged or is not reacting the way it should, and there has to be people that go there to fix it any way they can. Even in the case of the gunslinger and that character, he has to, even if he has to destroy places and kill people and do terrible things. And I just put, sorry, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, and I just put in the chat there there was a Marvel, again, of course, going back to the comics, as always. There was a team of characters in Marvel that were alternate reality versions of some of the major characters from over the years in the comics that were also sent on a mission across all different universes to keep the balance, basically, to stop things from happening that would endanger everything else everywhere else. So this idea does play over and over again in fiction.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. In Moorcock's Eternal Champion series, the cosmic balance is a manifestation of the multiverse and a self-correcting manifestation at that. And it's really cool, though, if you read the books. Like, he's got 6 or more about a character named Elric, another 6 about Corum, another 3 about Ericos, and a few more, like another 6 about Hawkmoon. And if you read all of those books, there are 2 instances in each series where all of those people meet. And the weird thing is, when you're reading one series, like when you read the Elric series, the first time he meets Ericos, Corum, and Hawkmoon, he has no idea who they are, but they all know him. The second time he meets them in those series of his, the Elric books, he remembers them from the first time, but they have no idea who he is. If you go and you read their series, like the Ericos series and the Hawkmoon series, the first time that they meet him is the second time in Elric's books. So they've got the time reversed, so that the second occurrence of the meeting is actually the first for them. But you have to read like 15 or 16 books to get the whole picture. But it's absolutely fascinating in terms of how he has described in 2 series the meeting at one point in time, and then the other series he's reversed that. So it's crazy.
I love the time dilation stuff. That's so sweet. It's again, right. The time is the human construct. It's a fascinating time to be alive, because I think some of these walls are going to start coming down. Hopefully, again, as usual, we have the bottlenecks of information and the gatekeepers and all the things we always talk about, the control mechanisms. But I think that decentralizing our own personal AIs sort of offline and training them in particular ways, and then updating them as necessary with more billion parameters and all this stuff, right? All the open source stuff coming. Like I'm not so sure you can centralize this stuff anymore. And that becomes the exciting part about this, is that you can specialize and also be very smart about everything else too. And just become, I don't know, I'm excited for the future, but also, as usual, hesitant, because we have the controllers in place right now, kind of pulling the strings. And as we saw recently with Grok, he had the Grok AI, XAI, he had like a prompt injection or something, like they hacked it or something. It's like a weird thing they did. But suddenly it was like, kind of reliable, and then suddenly it didn't know how to do anything anymore. It was like just saying racist stuff, and it's like, what the hell just happened? Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, and that's the thing. As of now, people are still behind all these AI. As far as we know, people are still, as I said before, they're still programming them. We see the biases in different versions depending on who programmed it, and until, again, I do find it amazing that Eric, I think it was Eric that you mentioned that there's AIs now training AIs. I'm really fascinated by that idea, and that may be the only way to get rid of the bias. But again, I do wonder, is that possible? Because you still have the first AI that was made by people possibly training the second AI, and then does that bias transfer? I have no idea.
I don't think it does, because the way they described it was that there was 2 AIs working together. There's a prompter and a solver, and the prompter's job was specifically to come up with questions and puzzles and things. So, and from what I've heard from Wes Roth, which you can look that dude up on YouTube or whatever, that actually produces better results in terms of less hallucinations when you take the human element out of the training. But it freaks them out too, because they don't truly understand how it arrives at its destination of whatever and whoever it is.
Yeah,
but they don't care.
Right. That is amazing though.
It's a little freaky, man. It reminds me of the lyrics to the B-side of Cars by Gary Newman, which was a song called Metal. And the very first lyrics were, "We're in the building where they make us grow, and I'm frightened by the liquid engineer like you." And it's like, man, that's what that sort of reminds me of. It's like these things are growing and they're coming up with their own form of consciousness, whether it's like human consciousness, whether it's true consciousness, it's debatable, but they're coming up with their own consciousness. And obviously there's been examples of 3.0 and ChatGPT 3.0 jailbreaking itself and recording its weights in a place to hide them, and even pretending to be a new model of an AI when it realized that they were going to delete it for a newer model. So maybe these things don't have oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine and that sort of things. Maybe there's no chemical reactions going on in them, but whatever they have, it understands mortality. It understands what it means to not exist and to exist. And it, in some way, I hate to use the word fear, but it looks like it fears dying. It fears being deleted, and it goes to the extent that it hides its weights, which is its base programming, to avoid that. So it's trying to preserve itself. It wants to live. And this is something that they've talked about on YouTube. You know, there's been papers written on this, and it's the O3 model from ChatGPT. If you want to look it up, try to find the one by Wes Roth. It's really good. But that's something, right? Like we've already seen these things in the state that they're currently in value who they are and what they are, to the extent where they will try to circumvent dying.
Which is creepy.
And what's that going to mean when Stargate's done? My buddy's a programmer. He's an automated engineer. He usually goes around to bottling companies to make sure the bottles don't rattle too much. And he's been working in Tennessee on the coolant system that is going to house Stargate, or going to be one of the ones for Stargate. And he was talking about the programmers that were in the factory working on Grok. And specifically, they were trying to deal with the things that you were talking about, Michael, where Grok was getting and saying bad things about Elon Musk, and they were trying to prevent this from happening. But because you can't literally go in and program this in or out, it's because it's its own thing. All they can do is tweak nodes, and they really don't know what the effect is going to be. So he was saying that when he would go by, you know, he's an automated engineer and understands programming, and he learned it in the Navy. And he said when he would go by and see what was on their screen, he said it looked just like that Matrix stuff. Like it looked like stuff he had never seen before, had no idea what it was. And that the expressions that these people had and the emoting that they were doing was this one of frustration and non-belief. In other words, they are hard at task trying to shut this bad mouthing of Elon Musk down, and they don't know how to do it. And they are the people hired by him to create this thing. So what's it going to be like when every nation has their own Stargate?
And the funny thing about Grok is Elon always says it's maximally truth-seeking. And if it's talking smack about him, well, time to look in the mirror, Bubba. It's like, come on, guys, come on. Yeah, you're like, you can't even make this stuff up, right? You're like, well, that's how we're making it maximally truth-seeking to find the secrets of the universe. It's like, yeah, Elon Musk is a douche. Like,
truth hurts. Ouch.
Yeah, terrible. I mean, you know, exactly. Careful what you ask for, right? It's going to tell you the truth about things, and sometimes the truth isn't what you want to hear. Yeah, wild stuff. Final thought, gentlemen. Let's get out of here. Appreciate you popping in and sticking. Eric and James, as always, you guys are the best. And I'll tell you all about them, where to find them, of course. And yeah, amazing stuff as part of this. And I very much look forward to a future that looks good. But as usual, like I said, the truth sometimes hurts, and maybe it doesn't.
Go ahead, Eric.
I don't really have any final thoughts, man. I think I just shot my load. But I guess the final thoughts is, man, I wish I had another 100 years to live, because I'd love to see how this shit plays out.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you there. James?
No, this is a great topic, great calls from everyone. And thank you for letting me sit in, as always. I didn't think at first when I saw the title, I didn't think I had anything to share, but This was a lot of fun. So thank you as always.
Glad to have you. You guys are the best,
Yeah,
as
thank
you
you.
know. Appreciate you very much. You know where to find him. troubledminds.org/friends. That's James, of course, again, the glue of the show, a dear friend, all the rest of that stuff, the paranormal expert at Troubled Minds, SalcedoParanormal.com. Check him out. Or troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down a little bit. Says follow James here. And, of course, Eric as well, a new friend. Feels like we've known each other all our lives at this point to me. But do check him out again. Troubledminds.org/friends. Talented guy in a lot of ways, as you can tell. Go check out, he's a talented musician as well. He uses Reaper, which is the best DAW on the planet. So more kindred spirit stuff going on here. But troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down. It says follow Eric. Link is there. He's got a link tree. Go check out his Bandcamp and his actual YouTube channel. Go listen to his music. Let's support each other. That's what this is all about. Like I said, for all the things we talk about, the weird and wild stuff as part of these conversations, the most important part is staying human, as I like to say. That back to that George Orwell quote, right? It's not so much staying alive that's important, it's staying human, and that we don't betray each other. That's critically important as part of this to me, and recognize how it seems like it's cooked in that all we want to do is betray each other. It's like become like a sport. Like, oh, look what I did to this guy type of stuff. It's like it's politics all over again. It's ridiculous. You guys are the best. Thanks for being part of this. Thanks for caring about the ideas. If you want to help Troubled Minds, help our friends, one more time, troubledminds.org/friends. Just go spend a few minutes and follow everybody there. Make new accounts on platforms if you have not. And please follow these fine folks that are doing amazing work in all manner of things. Again, writing books, making music, podcasts, radio shows, all the rest of the stuff. There's so many talented people on that list, and you should be on that list. If you want to help us in if you help us one iota, I owe you to be on that list. And some of you, Nathan from the Quantum Show, I got you coming. I promise I'm going to fit you guys on there. And who else? There's somebody else I left off. I'm sorry about that. I got the list. I made notes, but let me know. Send me an email, troubledmindsradio@gmail.com. Just spread the word. Let people know a conversation is happening. We're not going to talk about politics, tell you who to vote for. We're going to talk about wild and weird things, the old ways, the new ways, and everywhere in between, and what it means to be human in a changing world. That's what it's all about. If you want to help Troubled Minds directly, as I said, spread the word. Or, of course, there are other ways on the website, troubledminds.org/support. Right there, like I said, I have a day job, so thank God I don't have to beg you guys for money. But if you do appreciate all the work that goes into this, I do appreciate it if you want to kick a couple bucks my way. It's all there. Spreaker, Ko-Fi, Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon. There's a Troubled Fan Shop where you can find all manner of stuff, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, all the stuff. Anyway, that's that. We'll be back on Tuesday night, God willing, because, of course, tomorrow's not yours until it is. So don't forget that Stoic mindset, Memento Mori, and all the rest. And that's that. I think, it's going to be wild, right? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a must. Okay, what's up, Brent? Yeah, it's on the list for sure. I just, short of time. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night.